Now, okay, here's one, two. Batteries. I think it's 4 you have to change. 4 and 6. No. I can be nothing yet. And I go on up.
Everything working, technology working.
I have 4 mics. So you want? I have 6 mics in total. So what way do you want to do it?
We'll have a couple more.
Share. Do you want to share the mics between you?
Well,
Or do you want
two
one
here.
each?
So 2 mics will do here. One is one to the speaker and one to whoever if the other panelists if they want to comment on something that any speaker. That be okay, John?
Yeah. And then who wants the mics then for Q&A?
We'll get to that today.
Yeah.
Ray, are you doing that, Robin?
Give you just two.
Just a couple. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we'll just get going now in a couple of minutes. Just give us a couple of minutes. There's a good crowd. There's people trying to get in, so just give us a couple of minutes and everyone. There's a few more seats here and there. Try and tidy in as much as you can down here in the middle. We'll get in a few seats, people. So squeeze up as much as you can. And just on a bit of housekeeping, public toilets are across the way. Anyone that wants to use toilet facilities. As I said, there's a handful of seats up here in the middle. Move your seat or two down here at the front all the time. Don't be shy, guys, just sit down here. You go up the stairs. Over here at the side.
And that goes up to the stairs, stuff.
Yeah.
Any other?
Sit down here. Another seat up here on the top, in the middle. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Clare Mart and Munster AI, I'd like to welcome you all here tonight. It's great to see such a crowd, and I suppose we all know why you're here. There's a lot of uncertainty out there in relation to this new beef genomics scheme, and I think we're very privileged tonight with the group of speakers and things that we have. You all have to be on your best behaviour and good smiles tonight. You're going to be live throughout the country. This has been streamed by the Irish Farmers Journal, and Justin McCarthy will be joining us shortly, and he'll chair it from there on. Tonight our panelist speakers are Joe Buck from Board Bia, and Joe will cover a bit on the markets and both the live exports and the beef markets and where we're going. After that then we'll have Chris Daly from ICBF, who will give an update on the beef genomics scheme and what's involved. Then we have Rose Golding and Doreen Cordon. They'll go through the workings of the scheme and the breeding policies that people will have to implement in order to qualify for the scheme. And I think it's fair to say that a lot of people have been surprised in a lot of cases that their herd may be in better shape than they thought to qualify for the scheme. And then we have a number of livestock as well to show what can be produced with 1-star cows, what can be produced with 5-star cows. So we might see no difference, and I've no doubt we'll have a good debate. We will have a number of microphones floating around, and we'll take a share of questions. As I say, we'll get Joe Buck from Board Bia to cast off, and we'll take questions for Joe on the markets before we go into the beef genomics scheme. And if you can, I've heard phones ringing there, if you can maybe turn them down and turn them off and keep them quiet, because I think there'll be a lot of information here, and as I say, we have an expert panel, and any questions you have, don't be shy to put up your hands. We have a few floating mics and we'll get to you. So I'd like to cast off now with Joe Buck. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. So firstly, thanks to Clare Mart for the opportunity to come down and address you. I'm going to give you a short presentation. Some of the slides, the information will be up here, but I'm going to go through it fairly quickly anyway and give a good rundown on some of the, I suppose, factors that are impacting on the market, both for weanlings and store cattle as well as for finished cattle currently here in Ireland. I suppose one of the key things, obviously, within any market is supply and demand, and supplies of cattle so far this year have been somewhat tighter than last year. Especially over the last 2 to 3 months, cattle supplies have tightened up significantly. the most recent week there is last week. There was 30,600 cattle killed in the country. So that was back over 5,000 in comparison to that week last year. And that has been the trend in recent weeks, like that cattle numbers have been down by 4,000 or 5,000 a week in comparison to this time last year. So, that is positive from a seller's point of view. That should be fueling better competition there and better demand for the cattle. And so far this year, that's part of the reason why we've seen about a 10% recovery in cattle prices. On average, for the year to date, your average steer or heifer being slaughtered has gotten about 10% of a higher price in comparison to last year. Now, you'll say that, that's not that significant because we were at a very low base. We were at a lower point last year, and cattle prices last year were very disappointing. And this is part of the reason why they have recovered. So far for the year to date, we've seen a decline of 76,000 cattle in terms of the slaughterings, or about 5.6%. Within that, for the year to date, we've killed slightly more steers. Numbers of bullocks being killed is up by about 3%. Numbers of young bulls, though, being killed is down by more than 25%. So that's very significant. Farmers have opted to castrate more of their males, and that's why more of them are being presented as steers. However, numbers of both steers and heifers have tightened up significantly. They're the main categories that we're seeing less of in recent weeks. And we would expect that trend to continue as well, too, for the coming months. And I'll show you in a few minutes why that's the case. But just, again, to touch on what's happening this year. We've seen a very, very significant development in calf registrations. And, overall for the year to date, there's been just over 2.1 million cattle born in Ireland. But that represents a big increase. It represents an increase of 6% in terms of calf registrations, an increase of nearly 120,000 head. So that's a very, very big increase, the biggest that we've seen in recent years, in fact. And most of that increase has been from the dairy herd. We've seen a 9% increase in the number of calves registered to dairy cows. That's nearly 100,000 head extra. So that hasn't been as significant in this county because here in Clare, it's a county that's renowned for quality cattle, a lot of them coming from the suckler herd. And to put that in the context of that graph, we've here in this county, 68,000 calves were registered to suckler cows in 2014, and just 28,000 calves were registered to dairy cows in Clare in 2014. So here in Clare, there's more than twice as many suckler cows, or more than twice as many calves registered to suckler cows than there are to dairy cows. Whereas you can see there that the trend in Ireland nationally is that the dairy herd is growing, the suckler herd is also recovering. We've seen an increase of about 2% in the national suckler herd, so that's good. We saw a big fall off in suckler herds there 2 years ago in 2013. It is recovering, but the big increase is coming from the dairy bred animals. And you might be forgiven for thinking that because we've seen this big increase in calf registrations by dairy cows, that there's going to be a big surplus of Frisian bull calves and there's a big increase in Frisian animals on the ground. But in fact, that's not actually the case. And when we looked and did an analysis on calf registrations by breed, what the big increase is in the number of Angus and Hereford cross calves. And I know there are some Angus and Hereford cross calves also coming through this ring, both on a Tuesday and a Thursday in the weanling and the store cattle sale. Many of them are coming from suckler cows, some of them are coming from dairy. But where the big increase has come here in Ireland has been, so far this year, in the number of calves registered to dairy. And many of the Anguses and Herefords nationally that have been registered have been as a result of increased crossbreeding on the dairy herd. There's an increase of 70,000 of those extra calves are Angus or Hereford sired. So, that's not as relevant a factor here in this county, but where there are more continental bred animals coming from the suckler herd. The trends then within most of the other slight increase there reflecting the increase in the dairy herd. However, within the other breeds, a slight increase for Limousin, more or less stable for most of the other breeds, but we have seen a continued decline in the case of the Belgian Blue breed and seen about an 8% decline in terms of calf registrations to Belgian Blues overall in the country. Overall, looking forward over the next 12, 18 months, even 2 years down the line, what are cattle supplies likely to arise and materialise into? Well, as a consequence of the big increase in the number of young cattle in the system, there's 83,000 extra male cattle currently in the country that are under 12 months of age. So that's extra calves that were born this year. And, in most cases, when they're likely to be presented for slaughter is going to be 2017. Because they were born in 2015, it's most likely that most of them 83,000 extra of those male animals. What these figures would show, however, is that there continues to be a decline in the number of animals of slaughter age. There's over 40,000 fewer male animals in that 2-year-old plus age bracket. And again, that would point towards just tight supplies over the coming months, and farmers with cattle to sell are likely to be in a stronger selling position and going to experience strong demand for their finished cattle. When we look at the female cattle then, and these are taken from the Department of Agriculture's AIM database, or what was previously known as the CMMS, there's 48,000 more female animals of a beef breed. So we excluded the female dairy heifers, which are more than likely going to be going in that there are significant increases coming down the tracks, and that's something that farmers have expressed their concerns about going forward. That is there going to be a flood of cattle in 2017? It's not something that is totally unknown to us. We're likely to see cattle numbers increasing back up to maybe numbers that we haven't last seen since 2007 or 2008, when we last killed 1.7 million cattle in the country. Producer prices, very, very importantly, looking at this, as I said earlier on average, cattle prices are up by about 10% in comparison to last year. And in fact, when you look at the prices of cattle going through the ring, and similarly to the cattle that are being slaughtered in Irish meat factories, when we did an analysis there of the cattle being killed in the month of September, your average R-grade bullock this September was making $4.08 a kilo. That was the average price that an R-grade bullock was sold for in Ireland. That was up 10% on September 2014, when that same bullock was making $3.70 a kilo. If we look at a store bullock then, in the 500 to 550 kilo weight category, based on the Farmers Journal Martwatch prices, this year he was making about €2.21 a kilo. So that was also up 10%. This time last year he was making €2 a kilo live weight. Weanland prices are also up by 10%. So it shows, we are hearing commentators saying that the store cattle or the weanlands have gone up too much, or that they're too expensive. But it's only the equivalent amount of a price rise as to what we have seen in the case of the finished cattle as well too. The average weanland, for example, in September 2014 was making $2.26, and the equivalent price this year was $2.46. So again, they went up by nearly 10%. But when we look at the Irish cattle price, as I said, it increased by 10%, but that wasn't just a straight line increase across the year. It peaked in the month of June or July there, when we remember that base prices for bullocks at that time went up to about $4.30. Some farmers even got $4.35, but they fell off fairly significantly again then after that. And currently the base price, it's sitting at about $3.90 a kilo. For our grade steers. Some farmers will be managing to get $3.95 all right, but it is hard got. In comparison to, you'd imagine that cattle numbers being scarce, that it should be a little bit easier to be got. And, base prices should rise, all things being equal, over the coming weeks, given that we'll have supermarket promotions taking place as well too, and supermarkets will be placing their orders ahead of the Christmas period there, which is normally a good period for beef sales. But if you look at the Irish price, which is the green line in the middle of the graph there, in comparison to the UK price, the blue line up at the top, there was a period there when the UK price, the gap wasn't that significant in the middle of the year. However, the gap between the Irish and the UK R-grade bullock prices has widened out significantly in recent months, and is currently at about 90 cents a kilo is the gap. The UK price being equivalent to about $4.70 a kilo at the moment. Elsewhere around Europe, though, cattle prices in general are lower than than here in Ireland, or at least that's where they have been for most of this year. And for most of the continental European prices, we're looking at young bull prices. It's mainly here in Ireland and in the UK that we finish bullocks. Most of the male cattle around continental Europe are finished as bulls. But again, this has been part of the reason why it's been difficult to export cattle live this year, because on average, the cattle prices here in Ireland have been higher in comparison to European cattle prices. So in Italy, most recently, the R-grade young bull price has increased to about $3.94 a kilo, so the price differential there has increased. The Italian price has increased, and most of the other European countries are only around $3.50 or $3.60 a kilo, so that's disappointing. But I'll come back to it in a minute. We have sent a lot more cattle to Italy in recent months, and in particular in recent weeks, than was the case up until now. What's interesting is that even though we've seen this 10% increase in Irish cattle prices, it hasn't really been brought about as a result of any higher prices in Britain. In fact, the green line there at the top of the graph represents the British cattle price so far this year, and the red line represents last year. So you can see that for the first 6 months of the year, on average, UK cattle prices were actually below where they were last year. And it's only in the last few months, as a result of slightly better beef demand in the UK and tighter prime cattle supplies, that the British cattle price has gotten the opportunity to pick up and increase and, exceed last year's levels. The main reason why we've got a better return for our beef that we're sending into the UK market and gotten that, knock-on impact onto producer prices would be the effective exchange rates. So last year, on average, the euro was worth just over 80 pence sterling, and at times there it was worth 82 or 83 pence sterling. However, the value of the euro has weakened significantly this year, and that has made Irish beef more competitive in the UK market. It's given us a better return for the beef that we're exporting into that market. And on average, currently today, the euro is worth 72 pence sterling. So that's a weakening of more than 10% over the course of this year so far in comparison to last year. That's significant. That's nearly had the effect of, I suppose, automatically nearly given us a 10% price increase for the beef that Ireland is exporting into the UK market. That's very, very significant. It's gotten us better returns from the market. Very, very importantly, and again I touched on here in Clare, there's 68,000 suckler calves born every year, and there's about 28,000 dairy calves born every year. And most of those animals, they come into the market. This is the market for those animals. The majority of them wouldn't be finished in farms in Clare. They go outside the county, and many of them even go outside the country. And live exports represent an important alternative outlet for the different sources, different categories of stock, whether it's weanlings, whether it's calves. Also represents a very important source of competition as well too for these animals. But on average so far this year, mainly as a consequence of the higher prices here in Ireland, our cattle haven't been just as price competitive as they would have been in previous years. And overall we've exported nearly 158,000 cattle for the year to date, but that figure is down about 24% on last year's levels. It's nearly down by a quarter, in other words. So exports to Northern Ireland are slightly ahead, although that gain was nearly all coming from earlier on in the year when we would have exported more finished cattle to Northern Ireland. That has slowed down a bit in recent months. Other export markets are mainly showing a decline. Here in Clare also, there's a good customer that comes here as well too for the weanling heifers and buys very, very good quality weanling heifers and exports them over to Britain, where they're finished there on a feedlot mainly for wholesale customers. So that British market, while it's important, so far this year there's been about 45% less cattle exported to Britain than was the case last year. The big difference is that last year there was a lot of dairy stock being exported to the UK, over to England and over to Wales. And because of the slowdown in the dairy market, there's less movement of dairy stock now, and the British customers aren't as active there either for in-calf heifers or for milking cows. But there are still those cattle, as I was saying earlier, going over there for finishing, and in particular those very, very good quality weanling heifers are in demand here in this sale. If we look at other markets then, exports to Italy, overall for the year to date they're down by 25%, or down by about 7,000 head. However, we were down by an awful lot more than that earlier on in the year, and a lot of the gap has been made up over the last 6 weeks. where live exports had only been sitting at about 400 or 500 cattle a week going to Italy up until about the middle of September. What happened then was that France recorded an outbreak of blue tongue in one of their main cattle breeding regions around the Massif Central, around the south central region of France, where a lot of the Limousin and Charolais cattle are bred. And what the tradition is in that region is that they'd produce the weanling bulls and they'd export them down to Italy then live. However, as a result of that outbreak of blue tongue, that greatly restricted their ability to export those weanlings live. And that resulted in a big pickup in orders for Irish weanlings down in Italy. And our weekly shipments over the last few weeks have increased, and we've been sending 1,600, 1,700 weanlings a week to Italy. So we've enjoyed very, very good market conditions there because of the scarcity of French cattle. Now, what is likely to happen over the next few weeks, unfortunately, and this was confirmed earlier today actually in a conversation there with a Frenchman who's involved in that trade. He said that they're going to get back exporting cattle into the Italian market next week. And it's likely that, because of the hold-up, they have had a backup in their numbers of weanlings, and they're going to look to sell many of those stock. So it's likely that our exports then going forward, and even in the last few weanling sales this week, export demand has been somewhat weaker as a result of the French animals coming on stream. Exports then to other markets mainly represent exports of Frisian bull calves in the spring of the year into Spain, into Netherlands, into Belgium, and there have been slightly fewer calves exported this year than was the case last year, and that's mainly down to our price competitiveness as well. Calves this year, on average, Frisian bull calves making 120, 130 euro. That made us just slightly out of the price competitiveness of many of those markets, but we still did manage to export, significant numbers there. We exported nearly 44,000 of them to the Netherlands, 28,000 to Spain. The big thing to decline would have been our exports to Belgium, which previously would have been an important market for calves. But because of their decision that they have made to stop importing calves from any country that doesn't have an IBR eradication strategy, so they have declared Article 9 status for IBR. It effectively has blocked exports of Irish calves to the market, because in order to supply stock into a country which has declared itself free of IBR, you have to vaccinate them, you have to keep them for a week until they've developed immunity to that disease. And in the case of calf exports, that's not really practical in the spring of the year to keep around calves for a week and allow that to develop. The other big market that has experienced a big decline would be our exports into international markets. And that last year would have been mainly exports of plainer bulls into the Libyan market. And we all know what's happened there. Very difficult conditions as regards the political environment, the economic situation as well too has slowed down significantly. So there's very, very little sign of any resumption in our exports to Libya. Other markets, all right, where other European countries would be exporting cattle to would be the likes of Lebanon and Egypt. And hopefully, we may see some resumption in that trade, especially Egypt. We've seen some interest there, and I know that there are discussions as well too at Department of Agriculture level in order to see a more workable health cert in order to be able to export live cattle to Egypt. The advantage as well too, of course, of Egypt is that they would take plainer cattle than many of the other markets. And that will be important given the increase that we've seen in the number of calf registrations to the dairy herd. Egypt as well too previously used to take bullocks as well as bulls, so it would be an outlet for those animals, not just for the bulls. Moving on then, livestock promotion, a number of activities which Board BIA undergoes throughout the year in promoting our live exports. We brought in a number of veal customers, our veal lot owners, 15 of them there earlier on in the year, and visited live cattle exporters, and many of them subsequently bought Irish calves. They came from the Dutch market. We also run an ad throughout the spring months there in a producer publication over in the Netherlands, encouraging Dutch veal producers to buy Irish calves and emphasising their good quality and their good health attributes. Similarly, actually last week, we were involved in a promotional seminar over in Spain. My colleague there, Cecilia, hosted that seminar, indeed promoting Irish weanlings and calves. And just yesterday then we were involved over in Italy in a promotional seminar also, whereby we took Italian feedlot owners out to look at Irish weanlings in a feedlot. and afterwards then brought them into a meat factory and compared the carcass attributes of the Irish cattle and the French cattle. Now, the Irish cattle were very, very good quality specimens. They were Belgian Blue Cross weanlings for the most part that had been finished on Italian feedlots. So they were very, very good quality, and the feedback was very good. And similarly as well, there's an advertisement for Irish weanlings, which we also take out in a producer publication in Italy. Moving on then on to what's happening on the beef market around Europe. While we have seen tighter cattle supplies here in Ireland, and we've also seen tighter prime cattle supplies in the UK, where numbers of cattle being slaughtered so far this year are down by about 1.5%. It has to be said, though, elsewhere around Europe, we are seeing some increase in the number of cattle being killed. And even in the UK, over the last few months, we've seen bigger numbers of cull cows being killed, as a result mainly of the slowdown in the dairy market over there, and that's resulting in farmers offloading a few of their less productive cows, which, you know, it has to be said, have been getting reasonably good prices as cull cows in the UK market. Similarly, in France, there has been an increase in the number of cull cows being slaughtered. In Spain, production is also up slightly. So we are getting this trend among many of the major beef producing countries around Europe that there is a bit more beef being produced. Italy bucking the trend somewhat in that they've imported slightly fewer animals and their production is down. But elsewhere around Europe, there is a slight increase in volume of beef being produced. It's likely to increase by about 1.5% overall for the year. That's the increase in volume of beef being produced. Now, if we look at the volume of beef being consumed, and in recent years that has tended to decline in line with, I suppose, the slowdown in the general economic climate across Europe. For many years there, from 2011, 2012, we were looking at double-digit decline, or declines of 2 to 3% every year in the volume of beef being consumed in Europe, because effectively consumers were either switching over to cheaper meats, buying more pork or buying more poultry meat, or else in a lot of cases they were choosing to cut down on their portion size. So although they were continuing to eat beef, maybe the portion size was a bit smaller. They were buying a smaller joint of beef or buying a smaller pack of beef, and you know, that was their option instead of buying, you know, the bigger, more expensive packs. There was a slight recovery in beef consumption last year. However, this year, as you can see there from the forecast, it's likely that beef will continue to decline in consumption by about 1%. You know, so we've seen that 1.5% increase in beef production or supply, and beef consumption is likely to decline by 1%. So, you know, that's a swing kind of away from our favour, if you like, of about 2.5% that the market has gone. You know, we are seeing all right that there are continuing to be exports outside of Europe, and imports of beef so far this year into Europe have declined. So the market has found a balance, if you like, but, you know, these factors wouldn't be in our favour. If we look at the markets into which Irish beef is exported, on average, well, last year, just over 50% of it was sent into the UK market, and 4 European markets accounted then for the majority of the remainder. France, Italy, the Netherlands, and Scandinavia as well too accounts for a growing amount. Other markets as well too, aside from that, include the likes of Germany and Switzerland, but they are the big ones in terms of volume. We also exported about 2% outside of Europe, so that represents a relatively small proportion going into markets like Hong Kong and the Philippines. So, you know, how is Board Bia promoting Irish beef, and what are we doing in order to, I suppose, increase sales and increase our returns for Irish beef in many of the markets? This just represents promotional activity in the UK market, where we have a promotional website, I suppose, reaching out to consumers in order to encourage them to choose Irish beef in their purchasing. So irishbeef.co.uk. We also sponsor a Great British Chef's website, whereby they can learn from culinary experts on how to prepare the perfect Irish beef dish. The Italian market, I touched on that it has seen some slowdown, but we are continuing to put a lot of emphasis there on building the market for premium Irish beef. And you know, some of the difficulties there are that we've seen an 11% decline in the consumption of beef in the Italian market. If we went back 5 years ago, the Italian market, they were the biggest consumers of beef per capita in Europe, consuming 25 kilos per capita. That has declined to nearly 22 kilos, so they're closer to the average beef consumption now. And of their total imports, which are quite significant, about 10% of those imports come in from Ireland of beef. And we would have a good reputation there. We'd be among the highest priced suppliers and suppliers into many of the premium outlets, including supermarkets and restaurants. The German market has been an important one for us in the last few years. Many of the major German multiple retailers are sourcing Irish beef and sell it at a premium price as well too. And our work in that market has been on focusing on building the image around Irish beef and positioning it as a premium product. And there's an example of a German steakhouse where they are currently promoting Irish beef for the month of October. We had a major trade fair over in Germany as well too earlier this month that all of the major beef processors here in Ireland participated in under the Origin Green Sustainable banner. And that was very, very successful. But we have also significantly grown the volume of beef being sent into Germany and grown that market for Ireland over recent years. If we went back 5 years ago, there was less than 5,000 tonnes of Irish beef going in there, and now there's nearly 30,000 tonnes. So it's a market where you have a consumer with a considerable amount of disposable income to spend. And beef is one of the things as well too that, unlike other markets, beef is steady in its consumption, and consumers continue to purchase good quality products and pay a good price for them. Moving on quickly then, the Netherlands is a good market mainly for 4-quarter cuts from Ireland, and in that market Irish beef similarly is very well viewed and seen as a sustainably produced product, and our promotion in that area continues to be through the Chefs Irish Beef Club, who are celebrity chefs who endorse Irish beef and are very proud to use it in their restaurants and around the whole area of how natural Irish beef is produced. Sweden as well too, again it's mainly a market for 4-quarter beef and for lean VL cuts coming from the 4-quarter or coming from the neck of the animal, and many of the retailers there source Irish beef, and again it's a good market for those cuts. And finally then, that's just the Chefs Irish Beef Club. Overall we've over 80 different chefs around Europe for the most part, and they endorse Irish beef. They're Michelin-starred chefs. They don't get paid for this activity, but they're very, very proud to use Irish beef, and they're real ambassadors for us in their respective markets. So I suppose there's a whistle-stop tour, if you like, around where the markets are at the moment, and I suppose the few factors. One of the key things really that we've seen there is the increase in the number of cattle coming through from the dairy herd, and I'm sure many will be interested in that. I suppose for our own purposes here tonight, one of the key things is the quality as well too, and talking to some of the farmers as well too earlier, the outlook for the quality cattle is good. There's going to continue to be a good outlet for those animals because they have a superior yield of meat, because they're going to produce a carcass which is going to be up into the higher end of the grid. They're going to be into U-grade carcasses, which are obviously going to incur a higher price than when they're put onto the QPS. There's also going to be, continue to be those markets for the very, very good quality animals going into the likes of the live export markets of Italy and elsewhere where those animals are in demand. So thanks very much for your attention, and I'll welcome any questions that you have.
Thank you, Joe. I think the crowd has surpassed what we envisaged big time. And what I would say to people that's up there, maybe in the back or out here outside, come in here to the ring, lads, or in here in the scales here. I think there's plenty of room in here. I know it should be standing only, but at least you might hear better and see what's to be said. I'd like to thank Joe there for his presentation, and if we have questions, we'll take them. We'll have a couple of roving mics, and then now hand over to Justin McCarthy of the Farmers Journal, and no doubt he'll have some commentary, and he'll chair the rest of the meeting. And I'd like to thank the Journal for coming here tonight, and as I say, they're live on air, streaming throughout, so I think there's a new experience for everyone. Thank you.
Martin, thank you very much, and ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for being late. It's probably a sign of the end of the recession, in that it takes an extra half hour to get out of Dublin at 5 o'clock in the evening. And I think whilst that's maybe a poignant part to start with in terms of the economy and in relation to coming down here and seeing so many farmers packed into this ring, I think it's a real signal that there is real commitment out there to the future of our suckler sheep and some of the sectors that maybe doesn't get the headlines the same way as maybe others do. And the size of the crowd here tonight is real testimony to the passion that farmers in this area have for beef breeding. And I've no doubt that we're going to have a very interesting evening. As Martin said, ladies and gentlemen, we're streaming this live across the web, so it could be being watched in Brazil every bit as much as in Bangor, Eris, or wherever the case may be. So, look, it is a very new experience. Again, we'd like to welcome all those watching online as well. One thing we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to complicate it a little bit further, if you don't mind. But I'm sure a woman down here that's very close to everybody's heart and that they know well, certainly in the Charlie stronghold, is Nuala Horan from the Irish Charlie Society. We are actually giving, in tandem with this tonight, we're actually giving Nuala a Lifetime Merit Award, which I'm sure those of you know will all agree that she thoroughly deserves it. She's been awarded that tonight in Trim at the Women in Agriculture Conference, ladies and gentlemen, and we will be shooting across there at around 9:30 and just congratulating Nuala. We won't really be able to interact with them that well, but I think you'll all agree that we could maybe show Nuala a round of applause in terms of congratulating her. She will be able to see us, and I'm sure she'll appreciate that. So we might interrupt, and apologies to the speakers, but I'm sure you'll agree Nuala is a deserved winner of a Lifetime Merit Award. So I think she'd be really proud to see farmers, certainly down in County Clare, giving her support for that award, given the stronghold that it is down this part of the world for Charlies. And ladies and gentlemen, that's something in terms of the context of what we're about to discuss now this evening in relation to the breeding. And I've often stood in this rostrum, thanks to Martin, having organised these events and told farmers how important it is to know your markets and to know the market that you're producing for. And Martin, we talked about this coming up to this meeting, that a lot of, the vast majority of the cattle produced of suckler herds in this part of the world are for the beef industry. And you shouldn't see this scheme as being in conflict, certainly the BDGP in terms of improving good quality replacements as being in conflict to producing top quality weanlings for either the live export market that Joe talked about or indeed for the domestic market, which is primarily our main market. But there is a need out there to produce good quality replacements for the suckler herd. And I do think that we talk a lot about live exports and we talk a lot about the beef trade. There's a huge opportunity for farmers there with good, and Rose and Doreen are going to go into it, and Chris in a bit more detail, but farmers with good quality cows, a good quality suckler base, to actually look at the opportunities to breed replacements. Because I don't know many farmers that when I asked them their biggest challenge out there, sourcing good quality replacements. That's a market that some farmers out there can actually produce for. And I think it's taken out of this meeting tonight the bits that are relevant to your farm, and most importantly, the market that you're producing for. And I think that's what will come out. Joe, maybe if we just before you get away, have we any questions, ladies and gentlemen, on the beef side in relation to Joe's presentation in terms of cattle prices, outlook, or whatever the case may be, if you put up your hand. Joe, maybe when they're just people are going through and thinking, if I could ask you a couple of questions. Obviously, you painted not a concerning picture, and it's good to have the facts, but a 1% decline in consumption and a 1.5% increase in production, a 2.5% swing in that supply and demand balance at a time when we know, okay, a lot of them are going to be dairy-bred cattle. These cattle coming on stream here in Ireland, typically the second half of next year. How do you read that? How do you read that being felt in the market, or what advice would you give to farmers?
Yeah, certainly, there is definitely that increase there, all right, Justin. We have seen that swing in the market as well too this year, albeit that imports of beef into Europe have slowed down to an extent, and it's found a certain level. But yeah, beef prices around continental Europe, as we've seen there, they're nothing really to get excited about. In general, they've slowed down a bit in comparison to previous years, if anything. So yeah, there probably is a word of caution, or maybe a sign there that it may present some difficulties in the future. As an industry, the meat sector really has been focused on exports into international markets. We saw there last year only 2% of our exports went outside of Europe. That's going to continue to be the case this year. We heard of the US market opening up, but that has proved disappointing, mainly because of the lack of access to the manufacturing sector. Within that, there's mainly only beef cuts going out in vacuum pack, and the volume of that has been quite small. So, what the beef industry would be hoping would be that we'd be among the first EU producers to get access to the Chinese market. That'd be an outlet for, bigger volume, especially coming from forequarter, much of which could potentially come from the plainer cattle that we're likely to have coming from the dairy herd. So, that's the big hope there. And, as you said, it's likely to be late 2016, early 2017 that we're going to need that available. Wouldn't want to be putting all our hopes in one basket, because we've been out of that market for near on 20 years, post the outbreak of BSE and everything, and the fallout from that around Europe. I suppose the key advice really that farmers, and the key difference that they can make within their farms is to try and produce cattle that are in demand for the market, regardless of whether that market is here in Ennis Mart or whether it's to finish cattle for sale, to have cattle thriving well and having them moving well and presenting them at the right age and the right weight then at which they'll realise the best return and the best profitability for the farm.
Okay, anybody any questions? Joe, you're practically on home turf here, so I presume you're not flying off too early.
No,
so Joe will be here for any questions or at the end. Has anybody, if you just raise, man there in the maroon jumper, if we could just get a microphone to him.
Sorry, just one question. Well, two questions, Joe. When you talk about forequarter, are you mainly talking about the burger and mince market? That's the first part of my question. The second is, it's on foot of what was announced this week, that we were all listening that now apparently processed red meat is bad for you, and what do you, from your experience, what do you think should be done or can be done to try and counteract what might happen?
Forequarter beef, mainly what we're talking about there is, while there are some cuts from the forequarter that go into markets like the Dutch market, some of the cuts there from the neck or from the shoulder of the animal will be going into beef either for roasting or for frying. Most of the volume goes into products either for mince or into burgers. But an alternative outlet for that would be to go out to the likes of the Chinese market. We're already supplying some beef to Hong Kong, into the Philippines as well too, where it's used as, I suppose, a protein of choice. To most consumers out there, it's already a luxury protein, even though it's forequarter beef to us, it's burger beef to us. In those markets, it's a luxury product, and it'll be viewed as very much similar to a steak. But what we've seen earlier on this week, the announcement by the WHO that processed meats are likely to contain carcinogen substances, and that red meat as well too is likely to present risks to human health. I suppose the wording in the original document was maybe somewhat ambiguous. It did go on in length all right to describe what those meant and what the actual grams of protein that it was referring to meant, but you had to read a long way down through it to actually extract that from it. It was a lot easier to, in the case of many of the tabloid journalists and many of the, headline seekers, to extract out, cancer, this could cause cancer, and coming out with that. So, some of the reporting, and I appreciate yesterday was the first day really that many of these commentators got stuck into this and got their teeth stuck into it. But some of that was sensational and a bit more realism coming into it than today. When you just, I suppose, monitoring the impact of it among the supermarkets here in Ireland, talking to a few of them, there's no major drop off or major fall off in most of the meats, particularly not in the red meats anyway. Where you might see a bit more caution, all right, would be in the pig meat products. And, the pig meat farmers are suffering at the moment. Pig producers are receiving significantly lower prices, and they've been having it difficult enough already. That would be a threat, that you would be afraid of. Obviously, you reassuring the market that basically this translates into, as most people were aware already, for other health reasons, nothing to do with cancer, but to do with, generally eating a healthy, balanced diet and, avoiding obesity and diabetes and heart disease and all those other things, that you don't eat a huge amount of processed meats. And in general, the average amount of processed meats that people consume isn't excessive anyway. So there's a bit more realism coming into it, and I wouldn't expect that this would have any negative long-term knock-on impact onto people's consumption pattern of either red or processed meats.
Okay, Joe, thanks for that. Any other questions for Joe? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll kick on to the breeding section of tonight's event. I'm sure it's what a lot of you have come to hear as well. And we have Chris Daly from ICBF, and we'll have also then Doreen Corridon, Rose Golding, and I should say I'm also joined by my own colleague Darren Carty. And ladies and gentlemen, what I would like, the format I would like to have this is, could I keep the speakers quite tight to time? No presentations longer than 15 minutes, because I think there's a large crowd here has come to have a discussion, a debate, and maybe allow you, the crowd, to dictate the agenda in relation to where we go with the discussion. Because I do think there is a lot of questions out there around the BDGP. Some are very valid, some are maybe based on maybe poor information or in cases the wrong information. And if we can get that from tonight, I think tonight will be a huge success. So Chris, if I could ask you to go through your presentation, and again, given the size of the crowd, the time of night, if we could keep the presentations, guys, to 15 minutes, and then that will give us plenty of time for discussion and debate. Okay, Chris.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Good afternoon, everyone. Small bit of apology to make before I start. We sent out a text message today, and one of my colleagues said Skibbereen Mart instead of Ennis Mart, so I hope there's no West Clare suckler farmers on holidays down in West Cork for midterm, and they're in a dark, dreary Skibbereen Mart wondering what's going on tonight. And I also just noticed there I've done Manway on my slide, so I've made 2 mistakes. So we're not in Dunmanway, we're not in Skibbereen, we're very much in Ennis. I have about 10-12 slides here just explaining the beef genomics scheme. Hopefully it'll clear up a bit of confusion and allay any fears that some of you might have, and you can throw some questions at me afterwards. Just to give a bit of background to the scheme and why it was brought about and put in place. A lot of you might have heard in the media over the last number of years the effect of greenhouse gases, or climate warming, the effect it's having on polar ice caps, sea levels rising, and a big element to that is the methane gas that cattle are producing. Now you can see on the graph there on the right hand side of all the various protein sources from poultry to pigs, goats and sheep. Cattle are by far the biggest culprits there in terms of the methane gas they're producing. Now, it was being mooted in the media around Europe that, cattle numbers were going to be cut and taxes were going to be put on countries that had very high numbers of cattle per head of population. Now, for a country like Ireland, that would be kind of, I suppose, in a sense, sacrilege to say that we would have to cut or significantly cut our bovine population. So the solution that Ireland thought would be more suitable was just to make the animals we have that little bit more efficient. And the solution was to implement a genetic improvement scheme in the form of the Beef Data and Genomics Programme. So, as you can see there, it was sold to the in Europe on the basis of being a climate change scheme by reducing methane gases. Just in terms of efficiency and where the average Irish suckler cow is at, and some of the key performance indicators that we generate every year from the information that you're recording in terms of calving dates and whatnot. In terms of calving interval, your target is 365 or as close to that as possible. But currently our average cow is at 407 days, so she's losing about 6 odd weeks per year. Calves per cow per year. So you'd be hoping that every cow would produce 1 calf a year. Now obviously that's not always possible, but in a 20 cow herd, you'd be hoping to be getting 18 to 19 live calves weaned per year. Currently we're back at about 0.82, so in every 100 cows, for example, there's only 80 live weanlings being produced every year. Percentage of heifers calved at 2 years, again, it's something that the industry is trying to get more beef farmers to do. The target obviously 100%. Nationally, we're only at 18%, so less than 1 in 5 beef heifers is calving down at 2 years of age. And in terms of weaning weight, another target, General Chaga's target, is that a cow would surpass 50% of her own body weight in terms of what she's weaning. But unfortunately, because a lot of our cows are very big and maybe lacking a bit of milk, a lot of these weanlings are far behind that target. So there are significant issues, and fertility is probably the most significant. And as I said, 100 cows being weaned, weaning 82 calves per year. And I suppose dairying, because of how profitable it is in comparison to beef, will always be kind of the benchmark. And I suppose, could you imagine a dairy farmer with 100 cows, but only 82 of them are actually milking, and he's just keeping 18 of them? They're just, going around after the main group, topping grass or eating the dikes. It wouldn't be happening. They wouldn't be keeping those cows unless they're producing, okay? Just a bit of a case study in terms of fertility. And we take 2 by 20 cow suckler herds. So a high fertility herd hitting 0.95 calves per cow per year. So 20 cows are producing 19 calves with an average weaning weight of 350 kilos, total weaning weight of over 6,500 kilos per year. Okay. Then we take the low fertility herd, 0.7 calves per cow per year. You could have 20 cows producing 14 calves, and trust me, there are lots of herds out there with fertility levels as low as this. And even give the low fertility herd an average weaning weight of 400 kilos. So the lower fertility herd is producing better quality calves. But still, because of the higher numbers from the high fertility herd, the low fertility one is about 1,000 kilos behind in terms of weaning weight produced. Put a weaning price of €2.20 a kilo on it. You've over €2,000 difference there, and that's down to fertility alone, because you've more calves being produced from the higher fertility herd. Yes, they're lesser quality, they're 50 kilos lighter. Because of the higher number of calves, you're still outstripping the low fertility herd in terms of weaning weight produced. Just in terms of the scheme itself, there are, I suppose, 6 main requirements. And the first one is just around calving details. Now, most of you will have been familiar with this through the old Suckler Cow Welfare Scheme and the Beef Data Programme and Beef Genomics Scheme of the last 2 years. So the calf is born, you have to record the sire details, be it the tag number of the bull or the AI code, and the calving ease, so 1 to 4. Same as the old schemes. We may introduce a few extra little things next year in terms of calf size and calf vigour. We'd like to start recording a little bit extra information around these birth details to see how much of these things are linked to genetics, okay? And you can do it in the animal events book or online. That's actually an important point for the scheme. If you're registering calves with the white cards that come with the tags, you'll have to move away from those and you'll have to move to the animal events book, or else doing it online through Ag Food, okay? Requirement 2 is the surveys. Again, same as the old schemes. Cow milk and docility. You're scoring them based on your own interpretation of your cows there. And calf quality and docility. So the calves have to be a minimum of 5 months old before that can be done. Cows can be done as soon as they calve. Again, we might be adding a little bit extra here. Next year, cow and bull culling reasons will be added. So if you get rid of a stock bull or you get rid of a couple of your cows, we'll just ask you to give us a reason. Was it because of poor milk in a cow? Was it her temperament was poor? You know, your stock bull, did his feet and legs go? Did he become subfertile? Just to start tracking some of these reasons that these animals are being culled, to see, is there a genetic component and are there trends among certain bloodlines for bulls or cows being culled earlier? And again, that can be done through paper or online. So requirement 3 is the genotyping. You would have been familiar from last year, you would have been asked to do 15% of your herd with the little white button tags. This year, obviously, the number is significantly higher at 60%. Tags are actually gone out to most farms at this stage. Some of the later herds may still be getting them, but most herds will have gotten their tags at this stage. ICBF this year selected the animals. Next year, and I'm getting this question a lot, farmers are saying, why can I not select my own animals? The reason we couldn't allow that this year is because of time constraints. But next year, what we hope to do is send you a list of the animals that we've picked out for genotyping and give you maybe 6 weeks to 2 months to come back to us and change the animals you want to swap out and switch in the ones that you'd like genotyped instead. Okay. Just in terms of genotyping, why 60% of animals? Why is such an increase on the 15% of last year? Basically, genomics works on the more records you have, the more animals you've genotyped, the more successful it is and the faster it'll start to work. Okay. And like you can see this guy here, he's a group of heifers of 15 or 20 in front of him. He wants to select 10. Traditionally, he would have selected the ones maybe off his milkier cows. He would have seen which heifers are quietest. But when he went on and calved down those 10, there were maybe 2 or 3 of those heifers that didn't quite work out as he would like to have, as he would have liked them to. And there's maybe 2 or 3 of the 10 heifers that he sold that could have been excellent heifers. And genomics will just give that extra little bit of information when you're making these breeding decisions around which heifers will I keep, which heifers will I cull out. Okay. This graph, I know it's quite detailed and maybe a little bit small, but this is an example of one of the first dairy herds in the country to genotype all their heifer calves in a batch. Along the bottom there, the writing is very small, but there's 48 heifers there. The blue line represents where their EBI was on their parent average. Okay, so on the average of the sire's EBI and the dam's EBI. After being genotyped, the red dots represent where those heifers went. So you can see up on top there was one heifer significantly increased, and without genomics, the farmer would have probably sold on that heifer to somebody else. There's another heifer down in the middle. Again, that heifer probably would have been kept, but this has basically added more reliability to the animals' indexes, and I suppose given the farmer more assurance around which animals they're keeping. So it can have a very big impact. You know, genetics are the same whether they're in beef or dairy, so it can potentially have the same impact here for a beef farmer, picking out 10 heifers out of a group of 20 or 5 out of 10 or whatever the case may be. Okay. Requirement 4, just around the replacement strategy, and this is the index side of it. So a couple of important dates. By the 31st of October 2018, 20% of the females have to be over 16 months and they have to be genotyped 4 and 5 stars. And the 31st of October 2020, so 5 years' time, 50% of females over 16 months genotyped 4 and 5 stars. Okay. Now this is all based on what your reference number is. So if your reference number of, say, the number of cows you calved in 2014 was 20, those percentages will always be calculated off that reference number, even if you increase your cow numbers. So just a 20 cow herd, the average herd size in the scheme is 21. For a 20 cow herd, they'll need 4 of these heifers or females by 2018 and 10 by 2020. And it's just important to remember that females only qualify under replacement index. The terminal index is not applicable to females at all. In terms of the males then, a couple of important dates. The AI one, I'm sure Rose and Doreen will maybe touch on this a bit more as well. So from the 30th of June 2016 on, 80% of the AI bulls used must be 4 or 5 stars. Now that can be on the replacement or terminal index. In terms of stock bulls, if you do have a stock bull in your herd, on the 30th of June 2019, at least one stock bull on your farm must be genotyped 4 or 5 stars, and the same in the 30th of June 2020. Okay, and bulls can qualify, as I said, on the replacement or the terminal index. Now, if you're using all AI, you don't have to have a stock bull on the holding on those 2 dates. Okay, so it's important to remember that. So look, a question that I'm hit with every day at every single meeting I go to: why are we improving, or why are we looking to breed more 4 and 5 star animals, high index animals? I know this graph or this screenshot here is a little bit small, but on the left-hand side, we've broken up a group of animals. These are all females that were born in 2008 and subsequently calved down into the suckler herd. There's about 100,000 of them there. They're broken into their 5 groups from 5 stars to 1 stars. In the second column, you can see their average replacement index. The next column shows the numbers of heifers, and then we start seeing the differences. So the 5-star heifers, or the 5-star females, over their lifetime to date have produced nearly 1 extra calf, and that's through your improved fertility. And that's through a combination of things. Their age of first calving, they were calving at 51 days younger age to the 1-star animals. Okay, so we spoke earlier about targeting calving heifers at 24 months. The calving interval is also 21 days better, so 399 days versus 420. So 3 weeks of a difference in calving interval. Percentage alive, so a lot more of the 5-star ones are surviving to 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th lactations. Okay, and that's resulting in more calves as well. 20% more of them are still alive. Only half of the 1-star animals that originally calved down are still in herds. In terms of the milk performance then, that's expressed through the growth of their calves. The 5-star animals were averaging 1.17, the 1-star is 1.06. You have a 10% difference there in terms of the growth rate of their calves. And again, the milk scores that you would have been giving to these cows last year, it very much stacks up as well. The 5-star animals were averaging just over 4 out of 5 on the score, and the 1-star animals were averaging about 3.5 out of 5. You go on to the very end of the whole process then, and the carcass weight of the progeny. There wasn't a huge difference in terms of the carcass weight of the progeny of 5 stars over 1 stars. There was only 4 kilos of a difference. But the big thing is the difference in age at slaughter. Progeny from 5-star cows, females, were being slaughtered 39 days younger than the progeny from the 1-star animals. Now, in an intensive feeding system, that could be 2 to 3 euros per day in terms of feed. That's a significant amount of money being saved from those progeny being slaughtered at a younger age. Look, just in terms of, I suppose, you get hit with it as well a lot that from farmers, and this is very much weanling country, in Clare and around Ennis. This notion that, these 5-star cows are not going to be able to produce these export quality weanlings. This is just a case study of a farmer we did a couple of weeks ago in the Farmer's Journal. He's Michael Mitchell from Castlebar. I asked him could I use his details here. He said no problem. That's his fertility performance. He's an average calving interval of 376 days. He's well ahead of the national average. His calves per cow per year is 0.96, national average being 0.82, and he's consistently producing export quality stock. So this is an example of a cow in his herd, 652, an Angus cross cow, which I suppose, to be fair, no one's going to shoot me for saying Angus wouldn't really be associated with producing export type stock, but that's an Angus cross cow. My picture taking wasn't very good, but that calf was at a stand of an AI company deploying as an export quality calf, okay? That cow, she was a 5-star cow. She had an index of 113 euros, an average calving interval of 384 days. She's produced 6 or 7 calves, and most of them have been exported. So these 5-star cows can produce export quality weanlings just as easily. Just the last 2 slides, there's a little bit of confusion about the star ratings. The star ratings from 1 to 5, they're a ranking. They tell you just where an animal ranks in the population. What you really need to start looking at more is the index, okay? So you have a cow here on the left, and let's just say she's a replacement index of 50 euro. That puts her at 2 stars. And you have a bull on the right, let's just say he's an index of 150. To get the index of a potential heifer calf from that mating, you add their 2 indexes together. So 50 and 150 gives you 200. That gives you a potential heifer calf index of 100. Now you then have to see where does 100 euros sit on the star ratings, okay? And as you can see, once an animal hits 98 euros and goes anywhere above that, they then become 5 stars. They're then in the top 20% of the population. So it's not a case of I made a 5-star bull to a 1-star cow and I get a 3-star heifer. You have to look at the index figures, you add them together, get the parent average, and then apply it to the star ratings and see where they sit, okay? So average the index first and then look at the star ratings. Okay, just to summarize, you know, from the stats that I showed there, comparing the 5-star performance to the 1-star, look, the indexes are working, and it's being shown by the national stats. And look, genomics, it will improve the reliability of these. So the beauty of genomics, you're taking a genetic profile from each animal, you're getting a better insight as to what genetics that, we'll say a female heifer calf, what genetics she has inherited from her sire and dam, and it'll give you more assurance around keeping that heifer calf as a replacement in your herd. I suppose here, look again, I hear a lot, this one cow, and when I look at a lot of guys' herds, maybe back in the office in Bandon, I say to them, right, you're focusing on this one cow, but you have 20 cows and there's 10 of them that are 5 stars, but you're insisting on setting on this one cow that she's performing well, and she only has 1 star. Think of the bigger picture here, and as I showed, when you get into bigger numbers and you analyse our national suckler herd, the higher index stock are outperforming the lower index ones. Granted, you'll have some low index stock, and we may see 1 or 2 of them here tonight, that are performing well, but you have to remember that environment can have a big impact on the expression of genetics as well, okay? Record as much data as possible, and I suppose working for ICBF, this is, I suppose, a bit of a hobby horse of mine. The more information you record, the more accurate, the more reliable the indexes will become in your stock, okay? So the more you put into it, the more you get back out of it. So recording weights, just as an example, in 2014, only 1.8%, about 17,000 suckler calves had weights recorded on farm. If you do the direct comparison with dairy, about 55% of dairy cows are milk recorded. And that is the one area that we are really struggling to get data in, is weights on calves, weaning weights, which gives us an idea of the milking ability of suckler cows, okay? So if weight recording can increase, it will really help the indexes to become a lot more reliable. I suppose again, look, you know, ask people that know, like I've heard of people pulling out of the scheme based on advice coming from people, you know, that maybe didn't understand the scheme fully, you know, so if you're unsure, you know, ask someone in ICBF, you know, people like Rose or Doreen here that understand the scheme, maybe can look at your herd for you, go through it with you, you know, don't make any rash decisions based on possibly not too reliable advice. And look, it can't be denied, and you know, by no means should it be the main reason, but the financial supports here are quite significant. For 20 cow herd, the net gain out of that will be, out of the scheme, will be approximately 1,500 euros per annum. Over the 6 years of the scheme, that will come to about 9,000 euros. That's a significant amount of money for a 20 cow herd that would be, you know, quite hard gotten anywhere else, to be quite honest. And I suppose again, you know, I work in Herd Plus and I do a lot of work with reports and stuff. You know, a lot of you are signed up to it. We've about 10,000 beef herds signed up to it. We'd expect that to increase with the beef genomics program, but also through the knowledge transfer discussion group program. You know, a lot of these the reports are sent out to you in the post. How many of you are using them, I don't know, but there's a lot of good information in there. And use them to try and benefit your own herd and make better management decisions. And if you don't understand them, you can ring us up, ask us questions, ask your Teagasc advisor, you know, ask somebody that knows a bit about them for a bit of advice on how to interpret them. So, look, thanks for your attention, and if you have any questions, I'll take them there.
Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll take 2 questions for Chris now, directly after his presentation, while Dorian's getting ready. And Chris, you talked about the environment impacting on the expression of genetics. Dorian's going to talk about the management of the cow to actually achieve some of the targets that Chris also talked about. So if we have 2 quick questions for Chris, put your hand up and we'll get a roving mic to you. And we have the man in the middle there with the body warmer. Chris, just when we're getting the microphone, you talked about the benefit of the scheme being €1,500. Have you any analysis done in terms of, at the end of the 5 years, where if a guy moved from 2-star cow herd average to a 4-star cow herd average, like obviously the real financial gain would, from the figures you'd be saying, would be actually in the productivity of his herd. Have you any figure on that?
Well, I suppose again, when you're analysing the benefits of genetic gain, you're looking more nationally. I suppose it's hard to apply to maybe a 20 cow herd because, I mean, as I said, their management has a massive impact on the expression of genetics. I suppose by increasing from, say, maybe a 2-star to 4- and 5-star cows nationally, I mean, the increase in terms of output from the cows, in terms of better fertility, you know, a cow that's maybe 10 years old having produced maybe 8 calves as opposed to 5 or 6 calves, producing maybe 20-30 kilos extra at weaning. A significant thing as well, which Noreen McHugh in Teagasc has actually done, where we did a weighing project this year. She found that actually these higher index cows were also lighter, so there was less maintenance required for those, but they were also weaning heavier calves. So you would have a lighter cow requiring less maintenance, producing a heavier calf as well. So it's difficult to analyse on a herd level, but you know, on a national herd level, it's going to be quite significant.
This gentleman, yeah.
Hi, Chris. Just 2 or 3 quick points here. One, I'm a pedigree breeder of Charolais, a small pedigree herd, in average to poor land in West Ayr. One of the big problems I come across, I don't bull feed or force feed. Number 1. Number 2, I don't second suck my bulls. In other words, they suck their mothers and so does the heifers. Yet I run into problems when I come to weight gain. If they're weighed, and they have been weighed by ICBF, they are recording 1.7, 1.8 kilo per weight gain over 3 or 4 month period. But because they're not weighed and recorded between 1 and 3 months, which I think all pedigree animals should be, to be fair to all breeders, and recorded again between 9 and 12 months, then you have then the ICBF have an accurate weight gain and weight recording and performance gain, both of the mothers and of the animals. But while the ICBF, and I agree with what you're putting up there, but it's unfair and uncharacteristically wrong. The other thing that's not been verified is the birth of continental calves being registered and recorded. There is no verification. A calf could be 3 months old before he is recorded or registered. And then when he's sold at the mart, shown up at 9 months or 10 months old being weaned, he's already 12 months old. And he's cows, everything. And your system, you need to record the information, whether it takes on more technicians, more what, before you penalise farmers for inaccurate information. Thank you, and sorry for taking time. And I would ask you to comment on it. Thank you.
Yeah, so I suppose there's 2 questions there. Look, the first one is around recording milkability in terms of weaning weights. The most critical time to weigh a suckler calf is between 150 and 250 days of age. It's a weight in that window is used to estimate the milking ability of the cow. So it's a weight between 5 and 8 months of age. The closer to 5 months, the better.
If he's on his mother, if he is sucking his mother,
yeah.
But you don't verify that with pedigree calves.
But I suppose when pedigree calves are linear scored, the linear score asks the breeder, you know, was this calf reared by its dam? It can be recorded if an animal is fostered or not. But I suppose a lot of animals maybe aren't linear scored, so how are we going to pick that up, you know? It's a very difficult one to police, and that leads into your second one as well about verifying dates of births and stock. It's also a very difficult one to police as well. What I will say is that where we see unbelievable or extraordinary average daily gains on calves, for example, average daily gains of over 2.2 kilos aren't used in genetic evaluations because, look, it's not really biologically possible for a calf to gain 2.2 kilos or plus a day from birth to weaning.
Guys, could I, maybe in the interest of time, and I would also suggest that that's the responsibility of a lot of the breed societies as well, to police that, not just ICBF. Has this man behind you got a question?
Just a quick question. Just in relation to breeding cows, beef cows, and bulls as well. I'm not against your star rating system, but at the end of the day, if I come in here to buy a bull, I'm taking that
bull. A pedigree bull, a breeding bull.
Pedigree bull, yeah. Whether he's Charolais or Hereford or whatever he is, I'm going to take that bull on appearance, on his conformation, you know, bone, etc. I don't have to go into it in detail. It's the same with a cow. You know, there's a man down the road, I won't name him, who has bred pedigree Herefords, pedigree Charolais, pedigree limousines, and I met him twice recently, and he said to me, my worst looking bulls are 5-star, and my best looking animals are 3-star. And the other comment I'd like to make is, do you not take fertility, when you're star rating bulls, do you not take fertility into account?
The fertility of the bull itself?
Yeah, I think all bulls, if you come in here to buy a bull and you pay 3,000 or 4,000 quid for him, you know, I'd like that he'd be fertility tested.
Yeah, like the fertility of individual bulls isn't being recorded in the database. Most fertility testing is done privately. Like maybe Doreen could comment a bit on that maybe later. But in terms of your first question in relation to the appearance of stock, like conventionally, yes, beef farmers would have always picked stock on appearance, and appearance is very important because of course you have to check to see, is a bull docile, is he functional, you know, does he look a decent bull? But unfortunately, what we haven't been doing enough of is taking into account is what is in that bull's genetics, because environment can have a big effect on an animal's appearance, particularly feeding. And you might buy a bull purely on appearance and take it home, and that bull mightn't look anywhere near as good in 6 months' time. So that's where you have to take into account as well what's in this bull's genetics and what's he likely to do for me. You also mentioned about a farmer whose best bulls were 3 stars and worst bulls were 5 stars. There's 2 indexes in beef. There's terminal and replacement. And generally, yes, your better looking stock are higher terminal index bulls because they're expressing more muscle and more weight gain. Your higher replacement index bulls are probably your slightly plainer type bulls, not expressing that same level of muscle or weight gain. And it can be sometimes a little bit difficult for farmers to choose these plainer type bulls because it's ingrained in them to pick the nicer looking animal. But because we've been using these higher terminal index bulls, it's resulted in a big impact on our national herd's fertility and also on milk. So we maybe just have to start taking into account indexes a little bit more and putting just a small bit less emphasis on, you know, how fancy and shapy an animal looks.
Just one quick small question on it. Sorry for the time.
Okay.
If a farmer buys a bull off of me or whoever, pedigree breeder, and he will just say 3-star to start with, will he, if his pedigree are producing very well over the next 2 years, can that bull be uprated or downgraded?
He can be, yeah. And how it works is if, let's just say that farmer is a weaning producer, he's selling 20 weanlings a year and they're obviously going into other herds where guys are finishing. If they're outperforming the herd mates, which are progeny coming from other people's herds off of other sires, it's going to come back in your bull and increase his index. Now, by the same token, if they're underperforming their herd mates, he's going to drop in his index as well. Okay.
Yeah. And I think Chris, and we won't take any more questions, but just, and this will come out no doubt in the live demos. Guys, remember, if we're in here and we're assessing an animal based on beef, you can look at a lot of the visual traits. You can look at the length of them, the depth of the body, the size of the round. We can judge a lot of the grades, the cattle visually. It's very hard to tell the heifer that's going to have milk. We talk about the white flash under the belly, the white sock, or whatever the case may be. What are we looking for? A bit of dairy influence in there coming through. But this is about breeding replacements, and a lot of the genetic traits that you need for breeding a good replacement actually aren't that visual. Not the same way as there is visual terminally. No, Doreen, over to you. Doreen, you're going to talk about in terms of getting, managing these cows, managing your bulls in terms of hitting the high fertility targets. So over to you, Doreen.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, basically what Martin asked me to cover tonight was trying to get cows in calf. And as we're heading into the autumn, I'll basically talk about getting them in calf to AI. I'll have a quick word at the end about getting them in calf for the stock bull, right? So I speak to you really as I'm a vet myself and I breed sucklers. I mean, a specific interest in suckling. So I talk to you both as a vet and as a farmer, and picked up a lot from listening to fellas around the place, you know. So the big thing is, what are the reproductive targets for beef cow? A 365-day calving interval, right? That's a fairly tall order, but it can be achieved if we put a couple of things in order. The second thing, less than 5 cows culled annually is badding, right? A tall order, but again, it can be achieved. Try and have 90% of the cows calving to wean a calf. It can be done. Compact calving, replacement heifer rates, and calving heifers at 24 months. Right, we won't achieve it overnight, but it can be done. And what basically all these things do is they put an extra weaning or two in a load. And if you take most loads there of 20 weanings you're selling, throw an extra one on, it'll make a big difference. And this is basically what we're talking about here in the suckler scheme. I mean, every year when you're selling your weanings in batch 20 or whatever, throw an extra weaning, 1 or 2 in the load. Right, because the cows calve the 2, you have more calves to sell. You have less mortality, you have more calves to sell. Every cow weaned the calf, you have more calves to sell. So what we're basically talking about is an extra calf or 2 in the load. That's basically what it boils down to. Now, if we're preparing for breeding, there are a couple of things we need to get in order, right? The first thing is disease. Any place there's BVD PIs, we have to get rid of them. There's any one of them at all that's anywhere near the farm or in the neighbours, there's no point going to trouble buying cows if there's PIs around the place. Absolutely complete waste of time. The second thing that's very important is treat for liver fluke. And I know from looking for milk results from dairy farmers in Clare, there's a lot of liver fluke in Clare, right? And at the end of the day, there's only about 2 good products for liver fluke. One of them is Trodax nitroxanil, and the other one is the triclabendazole. Triclabendazole. Think of triclabendazole, right? Which is your Fascinex, your Indoflux, and your Tribex. There's an awful lot of albendazoles being said as a fluke and worm dose. They're only a very average fluke dose. So the big thing is get the fluke done, liver fluke, Trodax or the triclabendazoles. The big thing I see with liver fluke, most fellas are underdosing. I'd love to be buying suckler cows off of fellas for the weight they're dosing them at. I wouldn't have to work too many days a week, right? We're completely underdosing cattle the whole time. The other thing is when we're dosing cattle, we haven't taken into account the cow spitting out 5 ml, 10 ml a dose. We haven't taken into account guns drawn air. We're completely underdosing cattle. And the other thing is we haven't dosing all the cattle. Look at fellas and he'll tell you he dosed for fluke. But then you'll find he'll dosed one group of them for fluke. He left the other pin in there till the young fellow was at home next Saturday. But the young fellow was going to have to play a match next Saturday, so I didn't get dosed at all. Right? The other thing then is in rumen fluke, there is rumen fluke in certain areas. It's a big problem in young stock. And where rumen fluke can be a problem in adult stock is in carcassy kind of land, where you have water, that spills into the land for a week or so in the year, on land that holds water. You need to cover for rumen fluke. Worms and lice is important. Vaccinations. Any vaccinations you have to do, get them in before the breeding season. Try and avoid doing vaccinations during the breeding season. And the other thing that's important is a stable social group. If you have a group of cows there together, and they're happy and they're working away, leave them there. They'll go and calf very easier. Mixing groups and adding a couple of cows, taking away a couple of cows, you're putting the lower animals in the lower hierarchy under pressure the whole time, especially the first calvers. So try and get those few things in order before you actually start breeding the cows. Right, now, the calving interval, right? This is where the trick is. There's only 365 days in the year. We can't change that. We're looking for a cow every 365 days to calf. Depending how long the pregnancy is, most cows now, it's 282 to 288 days. So if a pregnancy is 288 days, we've only 77 days to get her back in calf, right? If a pregnancy goes to 295 days, we've only 70 days to get that cow back in calf. So 70 days to get that cow back in calf, right? So let's go forward with that one, right? So we've 70 days now to get her back in calf. So the first thing is, how do we get her bulling? How do we spot her? And how do we get a high conception rate? That's where we're at. Now, how do we get her bulling? the big thing with beef cows, some beef cows come bulling 25 days after calving. That's your cow in good body condition, right? Get calved down, had an easy calving and gaining weight, right? The cow that takes 180 days to come back bulling, that's the first calver, difficult calving, and she looks like a rake after about 6 weeks, right? So this is what we have to do. We have to get the cow back in calf in 70 days, we have to get her bulling, right? There's a huge range, right? Dairy cows, you can see from the point of view of genetics, are gone much shorter and come back in calf. Now, so how do we get this cow bulling, right? It's all about two things, right? It's all about nutrition and breaking the maternal offspring bond. Now, when we go on to nutrition, feeding the cow after calving is not going to get her bulling for us if she doesn't calve down in the correct body condition. So the pre-calving nutrition is key. You have to get the pre-calving nutrition right. Then get the after-calving nutrition right. You're on a winner. If you don't get the pre-calving nutrition right, you're wasting your time. Do you know what I mean? You don't win in All Ireland, start them playing in September. Do you know what I mean? Right? Because you won't be there. So the big thing with getting suckler cows and calf, we have to get the prepartum nutrition right. If the cow doesn't calve down in the correct body condition, we will not get her back in calf. So I'll talk about two things here, pre-calving nutrition and breaking the maternal offspring bond. Now, this is a very interesting slide, and you could basically take it roughly 1 to 5 in the factory scores, just roughly. A cow at 1.75, it'll take her 71 days to come bulling. Right? We've only 70 days to get her back in calf. Right? A cow 3 or 3.5 will be bulling in 55 days. So the key is calf cows in good body condition. Do not calve them in too low body condition score. Right? Now, the next thing that's important, the body condition score we calve them in depends on what time of the year we calf. Right? If we calf cows now in the autumn, they have to calve down in a very good body condition score of 3.25. If we calve them next January, February, we can calve them in a lesser body condition score of 3. And if we calve them in March, April, we can calve them in a lesser body condition score again. And the reason for that is if you calve cows now, we're going into shorter days, we're going into silage. So we have to calve in better body condition. If you calve a cow in March, May, we're into longer days, we're into spring grass, you'll get away with calving her that bit lighter. So get the cow in the right condition before calving, and that right condition depends on when she's calving. And if you're talking about autumn calving cows, they need to calve down in that bit better body condition. If we're talking about a 365-day a year calving interval, the biggest guys who are finding it very difficult to achieve are the autumn calving herds. Spring calving herds are finding it that little bit easier. And it's all about getting the pre-calving body condition score right. Now, next thing I'll move on to is breaking the bond. Right? And what this basically means is the cow is attached to her calf, she wants to rear her calf, right? She's maternally attached to it, and we need to break that bond. And we can see now with Holstein cows. I mean, they have no maternal instincts whatsoever. Maternal cow calves, she hardly knows what's behind her. You can go in and take away the calf, she won't bother you. By hell, you wouldn't do it with suckler cows with good maternal bonds, you know what I mean? Right now. So how do we break this maternal bond, right? Now, in the autumn, it's a simple, easy pie. You separate the calves from the cow. How do you separate the calves from the cow in the autumn? You have a creep area and make a door out of the back of the creep area going out the field. Right? The calves will go out the field. The cows will stay inside in the shed. Right? So not alone are we breaking the bond, the calves will use less straw because they'll spend a lot of time outside eating grass. You'll have a way less pneumonia. Calves will thrive away better as they've eaten a lot of grass outside. And if you have the door open the whole time, you'll go over in the morning, the calves will be sitting out in the hill looking at you. They'll already have their feed, they'll be gone out. Right? So how you break the bond in the spring, you commence the calf separation by day 30 after calving. Remember now, we're trying to get our cow and calf in 70 days. We're trying to get her bulling. So the first thing we do is we calf her down the correct body condition. The second thing is we break this bond. So we commence calf separation by day 30. 80% of the cows then will exhibit a fertile heat by day 45. It's absolutely super. right? 10 to 15%, it's hard to shift them. These are the ones that aren't in the correct body condition before calving, or the ones that are really attached to their calf, right? This works exceptionally well for late calving cows. It works really well for first calf heifers, right? It can be labour demanding, but if you set it up right, it'll save you a lot of labour, right? It works extremely well in the spring and in the autumn, because all you do is set up that door in the creep to let out those calves, right? Now, so break that bond. So how do we get the cow bulling? Two simple things. Have on the correct body condition score pre-calving and break the bond. If we do both those things, the cow will come bulling, right? If we let her to her own devices, our calving pattern will extend. So they're the two clear things we have to do, right? And while we're breaking the bond, it's all about hormones, right? And it does work. Now, with the BDG scheme, right, I'll go into a bit of AI, right? There are opportunities in it, right? And you all have cows you like to keep a replacement out of. You know the cow you like that breeds a nice calf every year. She's a very good pair of legs and feet in her. You never have to pair her, right? She's a lovely udder, nice teats, plenty milk. They're the cows breed your replacements out of, right? And what you basically do is you have your cutting females on the farm that may qualify. You have pregnancies due that may qualify. But any AI that's done before the 18th of September next year will qualify for the 2018 requirement. And any AI that's done before the 18th of September 2018 will qualify by your 2020 requirement. And the easiest way to qualify for those females is to use very high bulls in AI to produce your females. And if you have a stock bull that's producing exceptional weanlings, keep using him. The cows you don't want to breed replacements out of, so I mean, put a cracking Charolais or Belgian Blue in them to breed a weanling to bring in here. Now, we're back now trying to get our cow and calf, right? So the first thing we've done, we've broke the bond. We've opened that door in the creep area, we've left them out. Second thing we've done, we've dosed for fluke, got in all our vaccinations. The other thing we've done is we made sure the cow is in the correct body condition score. Now, this is the trick, picking that cow up in heat. And this is where a lot of us fall down, right? And if there's only one cow bulling, she'll only have 10 mounts. If there's two cows bulling, she'll have 37 mounts, right? And we really need 3 cows bulling, she'll have 50 mounts, right? So the trick is, the more cows that's bulling at one time, the easier it is to pick them up, right? Also, the underfoot conditions. If you have cows in an outdoor pad, they'll jump much easier than cows inside in slats. You want to be a smart man to pick up a cow inside in slats. I mean, 10 cows and only one of them bulling, right? And the one thing is, I'll go through a few of the different methods that's there. Lads, you will not beat a vasectomized bull with a chin ball. He is absolutely brilliant. He'll work there 24 hours a day, 7 days a year. 7 days a week. No question. No PAYE, no PRSI. The only thing that can happen to this fella is he might get hurt. Now, and the one thing I have seen on farms is you need to vasectomize a good bull. A lot of fellas have vasectomized something they couldn't sell. Some old fella that got pneumonia, I mean, there was a poor driver that was absolutely weak for age. And they put a chin ball on him, and then they meet me year after. Geez, Doreen, the whole vasectomized bull didn't work. What I tell him now is we need a bull like Philly McMahon. He's just relentless in his pursuit. He'll just go for it, right? He is just adamant to winning that All-Ireland medal, whatever it takes. So that's the type of vasectomized bull we want. Active, aggressive, you know what I mean? And put a chin ball on him. And that is what we need. And lads, any suckler herd with a vasectomized bull, they're absolutely super. You'll pick up Frisian bull calves very cheap. You'll pick up Jersey calves even cheaper. You know what I mean? Right? And just put a chin ball on them. Now, that's the best chin ball, right? And that's the chin ball you need to put on him. And put on the chin ball paint. If you're getting a new chin ball, a couple of things, pad the back of it around the back of the neck, pad it around the nose. Because if it cuts in to the bull, you know what I mean, and the back of his ears, you have to take it off. He's out for that season, right? So really pad the back of it. Another simple way of padding it is, you know, the yellow volume washer. I mean, just cut 18 inches of that, put it at the back of the head, cut 6 inches of it and put it on the noseband. Next thing is, chin ball paint is really thick oil. You really, really have to shake it. You know what I mean? To really, really make it work, right? But it does work, right? it has to fit snugly on the bull. And it's just like a leather pair of shoes, they'll stretch as you wear them, right? You put on the leather halt on the bull, it will stretch, so keep adjusting it. That's a perfectly fitting, do you know what I mean, snugly chin ball there on that bull, he's ready to go. Now, the next thing is, these are the mating marks you look for. You're looking for the marks when the bull mounts the cow, right? So you can see there, the bull is mounting the cow, and you can see the marks he's putting up on top of the cow. That's exactly what you need. A young bull's a bit of an idiot, he'll do an awful lot of courting. Do you know what I mean? He'll paint the whole lot of the cow, right? And you could be inseminating at 24 hours too early. But what you do is your mature bull, at the top of the back you look for. As often fellas says to me, geez, Doreen, he was way better last year. The bull this year's way better, except you have to look at the top of the back for the marks. As the old bull, he'll bull her and he'll walk away from her, right? So you have to look for the marks on top of the back. The young bull, he'll have her painted all over. You'll really know she's coming on before ever she comes on. Now, that's it. That's what you do. You're watching for the marks on top of the back, right? And basically then, here's a man ready to work, fitted with a chin ball, looking out over the fence like Philly McMahon. Where is the gooch? Right, now, the other thing is make sure your bull is big enough, right? Because a small bull inside in slats, fall in his backside, he won't do that too often and he'll give up. I mean, so make sure your bull is big enough for the thing, right? Now, that chin ball is not great. That's the chin ball with the ram harness on it. It's not great. It's not as good as the good one, right? And then match your colour paint to the cattle. So if you have cows inside and you want to get him AI'd, you will not beat a vasectomized bull. It's a male influence. He'll work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? You will miss cows if you have the vasectomized bull. And for once you get used to him, you can move him between pens. And he'll be waiting at the pen to go into the next pen, you know what I mean, to see what cow is bulling. So go away and get him, get a Frisian, get a Jersey, and put a chin ball on him, right? A vasectomized bull without a chin ball is not as good because you will not see him. Especially if we're working away, if we're part-time farming, or if we have to do child runs and all that kind of crack. Now, the other thing that works reasonably well for cows inside are these cranes, right? They're about €3 each, so I mean 20 comes in a box. The technicians there have them. You just start them off in the wall, and what you do then is just rub them there on the cow. So basically in the evening there, when all the cows are lined up and you're feeding them, just go behind them with your crane, do you know what I mean, and keep them topped up, right? Works reasonably well, right? So the vasectomized bull is number 1. Number 2 is the crane. Number 3 is the scratch card. This works exceptionally well at grass. Doesn't work that well inside in houses, and the way they work is they come in roll of 100, they're very cheap, they're only 75 cents each, but when you get a coat of dung at the top of them, they don't really come off. So dirty conditions don't work, right? So basically the way they work, they're serrated. If I have 4 heifers in the crush, pull out 4 cards and spray them, spray the 4 cows, wait till they get tacky. Patience is required. Do you know what I mean? It's like fixing a tube of a bike. Wait till it gets tacky. And as soon as it gets tacky then, put it on and rub it in well. And they're absolutely super in clean conditions. Now, this is an example of a Charolais, do you know what I mean, with the thing gone red. Out in an outdoor pad, they work very well. If cows are in sliding slats and sliding cubicles and they have dirty rumps in them, forget it. You're on your vasectomized bull first, your crane too. If you have very clean conditions, do you know what I mean, these scratch cards work. Right, we're going now to the maiden heifers. Next most important thing is the heifer capable of calving? So I mean, has she wide enough pelvis? Do we have narrow, muscly type pelvises? Now, pubertine heifers, right? The big thing is, what breed are they and what plane of nutrition have they been on? Now, it is possible to calf heifers at 2 years of age, right? No question about it, right? I've done it, and I've seen her donors that do it. There's a couple of important points. If you're to calve them at 2 years of age, they have to be up to the weight when you bull them first, right? And if you take limousine cross heifers, they have to be at least 420. Charolais heifers have to be at least, do you know what I mean, 430. They have to be up to 70% of the mature weight of bulling. If you have 700 kilo cows, Charolais cows, your Charolais heifers have to be about 490 at bulling. If they're at 490, it can be done. But what it means is there's no store period. You're pushing them all the way. So the first thing is have them at the right weight. The second thing is bull them to an easy calving bull. And what you will find, they'll go and calf easier, at 15 or 16 months, then they'll go and calf as a 2-year-old. That's the first thing you'll find. Second thing, put them in calf to an easy calving bull. They will calve easier. But the big trick is getting them back in calf for the second time, right? So the first thing we do is we get them up to the right weight, right? The big thing is, to be really safe, if you're doing it for the first time, get them up to 70% of the weight at the first breeding, 90% of the weight calving down. And if you do that, you'll make sure they're cycling, they'll be well developed for calving, and they'll definitely go back in calf. Now, as soon as you calve down those heifers, the important thing is try and keep them in a group of their own. As if you keep them in a group of their own, you can feed them after calving, top quality silage. I mean, depending on the silage then, you might have to feed, kilo or 2 kilos a ration. Keep feeding them, they'll come bulling, and they will go back in calf. So calving at 2 is possible, but you have to have them at the right weight of 15 months. You all have seen, lads, heifers under cows or drinking milk, they come bulling, right? I mean, you all have got caught with heifers and calf. Take them off of the cow, we put them through a store period. They stop coming bulling. We cannot have that. We have to keep driving them all the way, up to the 15 months, right? Put them in calf, keep driving them then, easy calving bull, calve them down, and feed them after calving, right? In the first lactation in the summer, they might look, you have to get used to looking at them, but by the second calf, you won't even know the difference. Now,
Dorian, I'm going to have to ask you to take a leaf out of Philly's book and drive on a little bit. We're getting caught for time.
Right. We'll race down south to the corner back, right? Now, so the synchronization of heifers, right? This works exceptionally well. Watch your heifers for the first day, for the first 7 days. So if you have 20 heifers, in the first week, you'll have 7 of them picked up. Give the rest of them a shot of prostaglandin. They're all on 48, 72 hours later. Something like Estromate, something like Luteolase, costs €4 to €5 a shot. The big difference is that you have all your heifers bred in 12 days. The other advantage, all your repeats are together. You have an even group for scanning. You have an even group for calving down. It works very, very well. Right? Estromate and Luteolase. Now, synchronization of cows. You all got there a BDGP leaflet, right? There's a very good synchronization program there for cows. Tagish developed it, and it's basically labour saving. There's only 3 ins and 3 outs. The first thing is make sure your cow's a calf 35 days, good body condition score. First day you put in a pridocedar and inject them with Receptal. 7 days later take out your priding prostaglandin and 400 units of ECG, right? And then on the Thursday, AI and inject them with GnRH. You'll get between 50 and 70% conception rate. They're all bulled in the 1 day. The repeats are due together. So I mean, just watch the repeats, and then you have an even group of cows for scanning to see a day in calf. Right? The other important thing is help the technician, especially with suckler cows. And you're on your own with them. When a stranger comes into the yard, I mean, they can get that bit flighty. If you have a nervous cow, rather than in front and side in the crush and she going backwards and forward, and a technician trying to inseminate her, hunt another cow up in front of her. So the cow you want to inseminate will bury under her. The other thing is, avoid dry, sticky dung inside in the crush, because cows are very slippy in it. Do you know what I mean? Either power wash it or throw sawdust or a mat under it. So enjoy your suckling.
Well done, Dorian. As informative and as practical as ever. Ladies and gentlemen, any quick questions for Dorian while Rose is getting set up? And Dorian, you'll be coming in and commenting on the cows and X, Y, and Z whenever we have the live demo. Any 1 or 2 quick questions for Dorian? How many of you here are calving your heifers down at 24 months? Nobody? One man here hiding at the back. The rest of you, 30, 36 months. I think that's one of the big challenges, guys, keeping this cow heifer knocking about the place for 30, 36 months before you even breed her, and you have something, and another 9 months after that before you have something to sell from her. It's a huge cost, and I think it's a way where a lot of us can add value and output from the suckler herd. Have we one or 2 questions for Dorian? I'm not going to push it. Rose, I'll go straight to you, and we can look at going through the various bulls. And ladies and gentlemen, the next, Rose, I might have to interrupt you if you don't mind in 15 to 20 minutes just to congratulate Nuala on her award. So we might cut in and out. So over to you,
Thanks,
Rose.
yeah, we'd be happy to do that. Good evening. What Martin has asked me to do tonight is to, I'll quickly go through, Chris has already done the requirements for the scheme, so I'll try and go through how we can actually achieve our requirements, and then I'll flick through some of the bulls we have available through AI, just picking out a couple of pointers as we go along. Okay, the first thing I want to tell you about is our BDGP booklet. It's a booklet that we produced there, launched at the ploughing. I have your copy, Justin, in case you're looking for it. It's a very useful booklet, and I'll be referring to it as in my talk, but make sure you take one home with you. That's the most important thing. Also, we have our new beef catalogue. It's got all the up-to-date indexes in it, and I suppose a word of caution if you're looking at AI catalogues and you're trying to decide which bulls to use based on the index. Indexes of bulls and cows change 3 times a year. So we get an index in August, we get one in December, and we get one in April. Okay? So this catalogue now is bang up to date, but it won't be bang up to date come next January. And also, if you're looking at any catalogue, make sure you're looking at the most up-to-date indexes. I suppose it's actually more prudent in general to have a flick on the ICBF website if you're specifically looking for a bull, because the indexes there are always up to date. But this catalogue is bang up to date now. Okay, just moving on. Chris has already given us the requirements for the scheme, so I'll just talk specifically about the replacement strategy and how we can achieve our targets. The first one is the male, so I'll just talk a little bit about the AI requirement, specifically talking about the males. And as Chris told us, bulls can qualify in terminal or replacement within or across breed. From an AI point of view, you don't have to worry about it until next June. If a bull is 4 or 5 star, the day the cow is inseminated, then you're covered. But as a Munster customer, it's something you don't really have to worry about. Over 96% of the bulls in our catalogue are 4 and 5 star anyway. That's the first thing to remember. And the second thing to remember is all the Munster technicians have handhelds, and the index of the bulls will be on their handhelds, so they'll actually do the work for you. Moving on to the female side of it, and again, Chris has outlined the requirements. 2 things to remember here. If we're talking about breeding heifers to qualify, we'll do much better if we think in terms of the numbers as opposed to stars. And heifers that qualify need a replacement index, a minimum of 74. So 74 is an index that we need to keep in our heads, because that's the minimum replacement index of our females. The other thing to remember about breeding females is that you have plenty of time. So if we're talking about the 2018 requirement, you've nearly a whole year to breed females that will qualify for the 2018 requirement. From now up until the 18th of September next year. And you've almost 3 years to reach your targets for 2020. So you've plenty of time, but you need to get a plan in place and stick with the plan. Okay, so the first part of our plan is, this is a letter you would have all got out in the post if you signed up for the scheme. And basically what it tells you is, there's a couple of numbers there on the right-hand side. The first number on the top right-hand corner is 20, so that's this farmer's reference animals. So that's the number of cows he calved in 2014. So it's 20 reference females. 4 is the number of females he needs by 2018, so he needs 4 genotype daughters by 2018, and they need to be 16 months of age. He needs 10 by 2020. But the figure I want you to concentrate is the 4th box down, which is the number of 4 and 5 star females currently in the herd. Okay? So if you have a herd of cows and you're trying to decide how are you fixed at the moment in relation to this scheme, dig out that letter, have a look at the first page. It'll tell you your reference animals, what you need by 18, what you need by 20, and it'll also tell you where you are now. So this guy happens to be in a good position. He's 26 daughters, females in the herds that are 4 and 5 star. More guys will have a very low figure there. But at least if you start there, you'll know exactly where you are and where you need to go from here. Okay, so how are we going to breed these 4 and 5 star replacement heifers? And as we were saying earlier on, 74 is the figure we need to keep in our head. So that's what 4 and 5 star means. Every replacement figure is 74. And I suppose what's always prudent, if you're told you absolutely have to aim for something, it's always better to aim a little bit higher, because then you're surer of getting there. So with the work we did there across the summer with Teagasc and ICBF, 74 is our minimum, but their advice is to aim for a parent average of 102.5 if you want to have a good chance of achieving your targets. So basically you add the index of your cow to the index of the bull, divided by 2, and 102.5 is where you need to be. So here we have a couple of examples of cows. Our first column here is this work. This is a 1-star cow, okay? So our minimum we need to aim for is 74. To give ourselves a good chance, we're going for 102.5. So this 1-star cow is an index of 10. She needs an extremely high index bull there to give you a chance of having a daughter that will qualify for the scheme. Now, there are bulls there. It's possible, but you need to do your homework to make sure you're selecting the right bulls, okay? But there are very few bulls there at that level. We've a couple of Solaires there at that level, and they're the bulls we'd be recommending if you're here. 2-star cow is getting a little bit easier. You're up. You need your bull at 165, but still you need to do your homework, because there aren't a huge amount of bulls available at that level, regardless of where you go looking for them. In AI anywhere, or in the stock bull market. Once you come into your 3, 4 and 5-star cows, you'll have a great selection of bulls here to breed your replacements from. Okay, so go through your cows, decide the cows yourself, because there's 2 things you need to achieve here. You need a profitable herd of cows. You need a herd of cows that will breed the sort of cattle you want and for the markets you're aiming for. And also, you need to try and achieve the requirements of the scheme. And it's possible to do all in one fell swoop. So the first thing is have a plan. Okay, that's the first thing. Have a look at your herd and assess the current level of your herd. You might have a very good herd of cows from a replacement point of view, and you might decide to do a very good job, use AI across them with high index bulls, and as Justin says, you'll have very, very valuable replacements for sale to other guys that aren't interested in breeding high index replacements. Okay, so that's one option, you know, if you've a good herd of cows. If you have a very low replacement value in your herd, you might decide, okay, I'm going to really concentrate here now and improve the quality of my cow and make sure I have more profitable cows in the herd, or you might decide it's easier to go out and buy them, okay? But the important thing is have a plan and make a decision. If you're breeding your own replacements, for every 7 replacements you need 20 pregnancies, okay? So plan for that as well. So for every 7 heifers you'll need in the farm, you need to aim for 20 pregnancies. Why is that? Half of them will be males, first of all. There'll be losses, and it also allows for change of index. So cow's index will change, bull's index will change. Pick out the cows you want to breed your replacements from, and they're the cows that you know yourself, that you like, that are doing a good job for you at home, but also you'll get on better if you aim for your 3, 4 and 5-star cows. Use high index, high reliable AI bulls. Okay, when we're talking about high reliable, we're talking about 85%. Or else use younger bulls, but use a team of them. Okay, so you either use the really proven ones, or you use a team of younger bulls, and put terminal sires in the rest of your herd. So just to come back to this booklet, the requirements of the scheme are there in the first 2 pages, okay? On page 2, it explains the 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5-star cows and so on, and the level of the index of the bull that you need. What I've up now is page 3, and there's only one thing I want to point out to you here, and this is the list of limousine bulls we have available that are suitable to breed replacements. But as you go on in the booklet, the next page is we've got Simmentals, and then Solaires, and then Angus, and then Charlie, and so on. But what's interesting in the pages, as you flick through, we've given you an idea of the index of the cows, so to help you select which bull to use depending on the index of your cows. So this is just the limousine page, okay? So on D is the highest bull available at the moment. He's an index of 151. He's very high reliability. So he's a useful bull on your lower index cows, okay? If your cows are extremely low, you need to go to a different breed to achieve a higher index. If your cows are at a very, very good level, you have a whole choice of bulls. Okay, so just, and that's there, that's gone through that booklet, and decide the breed you want to use, and then you can flick through the catalogue. All the bulls in the booklet are bulls that we recommend for breeding replacements, and they all have a replacement value of more than 74. Just one other thing to point out in relation to the replacement index. 4-star is 74, but you'll have plenty of 3-star cows at home that'll be very close to 74. There'll be 70, 71, 2 and 3. It won't take much to produce daughters from them that are 4 and 5-star. And once they're genotyped, their index might come up anyway. Okay, so when you're selecting sires, selecting AI sires in particular, because you need to go for AI sires if you want very, very high reliability, you have a couple of choices here, okay? You can use your proven bulls at 85% reliable. Okay, that's one option. If you want to go for younger bulls, and there's plenty of very, very good young bulls available around the 40% reliable, there's no problem using them, but make sure you use a team of them, okay? Make sure you use 3 or 4 bulls, because 4 bulls at 40% reliable is the same bull team reliability as using 1 bull at 85% reliable. And that's something, myself, I just found it hard to get my head around it. But it's basically, it's all about spreading the risk and stacking your odds. Okay, so you either use 1 or 2 really proven bulls. If you're using younger bulls, use a team. And probably the best thing to do is use a bit of both. Use a few of the proven bulls and use a few of the young bulls, and then you're really spreading your risk. Okay, quickly just moving through the bulls. We'll have our main discussion here when we have our live demo. Maiden heifers. The advice when you're selecting bulls for maiden heifers is try and stay under 5% for calving difficulty and over 90% reliability. Okay, so the bulls there I have in bold are a couple of the bulls that we have available that are under 5.5% calving difficulty and over 90% reliability. The bulls in red are younger bulls. They all have a good calving figure, but the reliability is low. So basically what that tells us is their pedigree is good for calving. They probably have an easy calving pedigree. They probably had a low birth weight, but we need to get calves on the ground to get information in before we know for sure that they're easy calving. So if you're breeding maiden heifers, and especially if you're breeding heifers to calve at 2, go for the proven bulls and stay under 5%. And there's plenty of choice available there in AI, but make sure you look at the figures. Just flicking through the bulls, and again I won't harp on any bull too much. Castleview Gazelle is the bull we're recommending for maiden heifers. He's easy calving, only 4.8%. You can see the reliability is good. The other thing about this bull is he's very good replacement index, but he also has a very good terminal index. And what we all want to do is to breed good balanced cattle. We don't want extreme dairy type, because they'll give us the milk and the fertility and the calving ease and all of that, but the quality of the cattle out of them won't be good enough, okay? And what we really try and aim for in AI is good quality, balanced bulls that'll do a good all-around job. And this is one of those bulls. And the other big thing about that bull is he's a very good docility. And always when we're talking to farmers and talking among ourselves, no matter what county or country you're in, everyone has their own opinion about cattle, and there's always a good old discussion. But the one thing everyone agrees on is we want quiet cattle. Everybody wants quiet cattle, regardless of what other opinions they have around cattle. And Castleview Gazelle is very, very quiet progeny. Just flicking on another bull, easy calving and high reliability. Angus is also a good option for suckler heifers. If you're using an Angus for suckler heifers, try and use the high performance bulls that have good carcass weight and good carcass conformation. We've lots of Angus available in AI for extreme calving ease for dairy maiden heifers, okay? And we tend not to put them in our beef catalogue. So if you're using Angus on your maiden heifers, make sure you use the ones that we're recommending for suckler heifers. There'll be plenty easy calving enough for suckler heifers, but you'll get a lot more carcass weight and carcass conformation than you will out of the ones that we have for the dairy maidens. Rio's a Solaire bull, a proven bull. He's proven everywhere, which is quite rare, because basically he's been around for a very long time and he's been very, very well used. Extreme easy calving. If you're calving at 2, that's a great level of calving to be at 2.5%. Good on replacement, good on terminal as well. So very, very useful bull. Also, a couple of things. We want a good replacement index, but we also want to make sure that all the bits that make up the replacement are high. So have a look down here as well. That'll give you an idea of the calving ability of the daughters. This is a big one, the milk. And it's possible to have bulls that are good on replacement and minus on milk. So make sure if you want milk, you actually look at the milk figure. And the bottom one then is an indication of fertility. So if you're breeding replacements, not only look at the index up here, look at the index down here as well. Because basically what you've there is everything you want in a female, her ability to calve, her milk, and her fertility. Lockheed Tyson, very nice blonde bull, suitable for maiden heifers. Just have a quick look at his index. We agreed 74 is where we need to be minimum. He's only 54, so we can see automatically he's not a super bull to breed replacements, but he's a bull that'll breed tremendous weanlings for you. 5-star across breed and terminal. So breeding is all about horses for courses. So decide what you want from your bulls, and then you can go and start selecting your bulls. Just moving on, this is another nice young limousine we have. It's an easy calving bull, and the interesting thing about this bull is he's shock gestation. And Doreen was there explaining to us earlier on, we need to get a calf out of our cow every 365 days. We've beef bulls in our catalogue. Some of their calves are born at 280 days, and more of them are going 300 days. And we want to avoid the 300-day ones, because if your cow isn't calved 300 days, it's very hard to get a calf out of her within 365. And gestation length is something we're working on in the breeding programme to improve. It's something dairy farmers are really focused on, and it's something suckler farmers are starting to be focused on now as well, because it's a pain in the neck watching a cow calving anyway. When she's gone 3 weeks overdue, you're watching her, and you get sick of watching her, and then you miss her and you come out to a mess. It's the first thing. And second thing is, if you want a calf every 365 days, shorter gestation will help you as well. And there's another short gestation bloodline bull. This is a pole bull, and again, pole is something we're working a bit in the breeding programme. We've a nice pole Simmental out there that will be coming into the demonstration later on. That's a homozygous pole limousine, and basically what that means is all the calves off him will be polled. They'll be born without horns. So just something to let you know it's there, it's available, and it's something we're working on in the programme. Moving on to our terminal sires, and again I won't go through them all, but basically we've a really, really good choice, and just pull out the ones, decide the breed you want, and make sure you have a good terminal index if you're talking about terminal. So Gringo here, exceptional bull and terminal, 5-star across breed, 51 on replacement, not so hot here, but a great bull to breed replacements. So that's why you need to have a plan and divide out your cows, and then you know what bull to go on what cows. Ardley Dan, roughly the same story. Very good on terminal, bit low on replacement. Casimir the same. Blues, we've 3 great blues. I'll just flick through them quickly. Sultan is a big seller. Most of you that would have been using AI and selling export quality weanlings here. A lot of very good sultans went through this ring out to the export market. Adagio the same. They're 2 well-known, well-proven bulls. If you want to add a new bull to your list that's breeding exceptionally well, Serpentine is a great bull. Roughly the same level of calving as Adagio, super quality, export quality weanlings from him, and the other thing about him is he colours them really, really well. And if you have shape and a good colour, they're really, really good sellers, so a useful bull. That's a weaning out of him. Our Charolais, I suppose the important thing to say about our Charolais is we have a fantastic choice of Charolais that are very, very good on calving ease as well. Okay, this is our top seller at the moment, and if you've used Pirate over the years, he's basically another Pirate, if not a little bit better. Calving, he's only 6.4% calving, which is excellent. So very useful bull to put on pedigree maidens, very useful bull to put on second calvers. And the other thing to know about that bull, we genotype all our bulls, and we also can look for things like genetic defects, and we don't buy bulls with genetic defects, but they're rooted out before they go into the stud. But also we can see if a bull is carrying the double muscle gene or not. Okay, and this is the only Charolais we have in the book that's not carrying the double muscle gene, which makes him a very safe bull to put on pedigree maidens, and also a very safe bull to put on very, very shapy cows. Okay, so just to bear in mind, very good quality bull, not carrying the double muscle gene. You get good quality cattle for him. He's 5-star crossbreed and carcass confirmation, but you don't get that extreme shape at calf stage that can run you into trouble. Feaston, really exceptional bull, extremely high in carcass weight, extremely high in carcass confirmation. Usually when you have that level of carcass weight and carcass confirmation, you have difficult calving, okay? And this guy is just a dream. He's only 6.8% calving. So small calves at birth, they pop out and they just fly after that. And I suppose that's the joy of AI. When you buy so many bulls every year and you test them, you have a better chance of finding that diamond out there, okay? And diamonds like this bull are rare. But the more you buy, the more you test, the greater chance you are of finding them. Just a couple of more good quality Charolais bulls. We've calves here tonight from some of them. Just moving on quickly to our replacement sires, and again I'll just dabble into a few. And what I've put up here is just a sample of what we have available, the index, and also the reliability. Okay, and all those bulls are in the BDGP booklet. So when you're picking out bulls to breed replacements from, use a few proven bulls at a very high reliability, use a few young bulls as well, because the proven bulls won't be around forever, and then you're spreading your risk, and your team reliability is over 85%. For whatever you do, don't select a young bull, no matter how good you think he is, and use him across the herd, because if his index drops, you're snookered, okay? So use a team of bulls, it'll spread your risk and mix a bit of proven with a bit of test. Flick, you're running through them. That's on D, it's the top limousine available at the moment. And again, coming back to my balanced cattle, super bull on replacement, 5-star across breed and terminal as well. So it is possible to find bulls to do both jobs for you. Ozius, roughly the same. He's a bull that you would have used over the years here, and a bull that's produced a lot of very good cows, and cows we're very, very happy with. Proven bull, 83%. He's 4-star, okay, he's not a 5-star bull, so his index is 92, but 92 at 83% reliable is a much safer bull to use than a 5-star bull at 40% reliable, okay? And the difference is his index is unlikely to change. The bull at 40% reliable, his index can change. It might go up, it might go down, some of them will stay the same, but they're likely to change. So Ozius is another example of the proven bulls we have available. This is a young bull, he's an Andy son, so look at the reliability. He's a very good index, but 30% reliability. So by all means use him, he is a good bull, but use him as part of a team. Gloria, another bull available, and just to point out a thing in the index, very good on milk, and that's coming from his mother, very, very milky cow. So make sure you look at the sub-indices as well. Just a couple of Simmentals we have there available. This is a new guy, he's in the Gene Island catalogue, so for those of you that are using a bit of Gene Island and using the test bulls, he's available there at the moment. Also, don't be afraid to try a couple of the more maternal breeds. Breeds like Shorthorn and Slayer are very, very maternal breeds. We do need them sometimes to cross back on if we've used an awful lot of really, really terminal genetics. And what they'll do for you is they'll bring back fertility very quickly, they'll bring back milk very quickly. And the nice thing about the Shorthorn and the Solaire is both of them crossed with breeds like Limousin and Charolais. They always come very, very nice colours. Okay, and colours are something that we'll never find in the index, but if you're selling weanlings and you're running weanlings through the mart, a nice goldeny colour Charolais is a much more valuable animal than a grey, mousy brown one. Okay, so I won't go through the bulls in detail, but just don't be afraid to use some of the Shorthorn bulls. We have great Shorthorn bulls available there now, and also some of the Solaire bulls, because you'll get a very, very big jump in index with the likes of some of these breeds. And just to finish up, this breed is a breed that crosses extremely well on Charolais, and it works both ways. We're all used to looking at our Solaire cows with our great Charolais weanlings under them, but it works the other way as well. If you've Charolais cows, they'll be super terminal cows. Putting a bull like Rio on them, you'll get great daughters, and they'll improve milk and fertility, and really, really a great cross on the Charolais breed. Great, Justin. Thanks very much.
Okay, Rose, do you want to go down and maybe get ready? Are you going to go into the ring, or are you going to work from here?
I think I'll work from here when the lads are in the ring.
Okay, well, I remember having to quickly escape over one of those bars myself one night in here, so maybe just as well. Martin, do you want to say a few words, maybe just when we're gathering the stock in?
Thank you, Justin. Just a quick word. I think there was a fear out there that people had to produce and buy bulls with maternal traits only. That is not the situation, and I think from the stock we'll see in a few minutes, a lot of these cows are not top-rated star cows, but are producing very good calves due to the proper selection of the bull. And like, as has been said by the two previous speakers, it's all about identifying what you have in the herd, picking out your cows with the 4 and 5 stars from maternal traits, and matching them to a suitable bull. And I'd have to say, in Clare, that we need to keep continuing to use good terminal bulls. Like 15-20% of the herd is only made up of replacements. So focus on what you have and matching the sire to what you have. And like there's people thinking they have to go down the Blanket Road or buying a stock bull in some cases that's 4 and 5 star from maternal and using him across the herd. Just a word of caution on that is to say select and be selective. And you'll see here what we have done. We've picked out cows that have good stars and average stars, but I think most of them have pretty good progeny on the ground, and that's due to the proper selection of the sires that used.
And Martin, I think what you're saying is exactly right, guys. And we're also, there's another message in this. Like, the more I look at suckling and the more we see it in the better farms, the secret to suckling and profitable suckling is keeping the system simple. And I would actually argue that maybe a guy with 15 cows trying to breed his own replacements, and I know herd health is an issue, but trying to breed his own replacements can be a huge complication. Rose, as you talked about, the number you actually need to breed to actually get the number of replacements that you need is 3 to 4 times, given half of them will be bulls and not all of them will get right through to calving. So I think certainly for bigger herds with high index cows, they should be looking at producing high herd health replacements as a replacement source for smaller suckler herds that want to keep their system simple, Martin, and breed the type of cattle that you need here in Ennis Mart in terms of for the beef man. And just one thing, Joe, and maybe you can come in this through it as well. One thing we need to bear in mind, whilst this is predominantly a suckler audience, the demands that are being placed on a lot of winter finishers are changing, specifically in relation, Joe, to carcass weights. And I think what Rose talked about there, she hit the nail on the head. Don't rule out breeds, guys. Certainly that little bit of softness that the Shorthorn or some of the more traditional breeds might give you in the animal that will slaughter at 24 months as a steer or as a young bull. The market demand that some of the finishers are going to be looking around, standing around this ring, that little bit of softness might not just be the same or might be a little bit more in demand than maybe it was in the past. But again, it's knowing your market and selecting the traits to breed within. Joe, maybe you might come in on that on the weight side.
Yeah, definitely, Justin. I think it's a fair comment, all right, that the maternal characteristics tend to go hand in hand with easy fleshing characteristics in the carcass. That you tend to find that a cow that has good maternal figures will actually be one that will tend to hang on to good condition herself in her own, overall body condition, but also will pass that trait then onto the calf. So it won't go into a massively growthy calf in terms of going into a big carcass, but it'll be one that'll finish maybe at a lighter weight, because we are finding more and more that it's not a case this year that there are weight limits. Last year some farmers were cut off and would have gotten price penalties because they were finishing cattle at too heavy weights, but it is something that's likely to impact again in the future, that ideally factories are going to be looking to buy cattle maybe up to 400 or maybe up to 420 kilos carcass weight, and above that there'll be, continue to be market outlets, but they'll be limited. So in general, there may be more demand for the cattle that will fleshen at a slightly lighter carcass weight.
Super. And again, it's something to bear in mind in relation to producing for the market and knowing the market that you're producing for. Rose?
Yeah, great. Just talk about the cow we have here in the ring. She's a young cow, 2011 cow. She's a Limousin Cross Holstein. She's belonged to Cyril Barry Fountain Ennis, and Cyril has a specific plan with his replacements. He buys them all from a dairy farmer he knows. Okay, so this is a Limousin Cross Holstein. She's a very good quality Charlie calf at foot out of our AI Munster Bull Gerard. His code is GRF. The calf is only a month of age. And I suppose a couple of things about the pair before we start looking at them on paper. The best way of judging a cow is to look at what she leaves after her. It's the first thing. So look at the quality of the calf and also how she does her calf. Okay, so we have a very good quality calf here, and she's obviously doing a very, very good job in her calf. So we know she's capable of producing a good calf, albeit he's out of a good AI bull, and she's lots of milk. The other thing to say about this cow is she's a very nice quality udder under her. And we all want to select daughters from the best cows in our herd, and we all want good indexes in our cows now. And I suppose if you want to assess exactly how much milk the cows have, you always know the cows that have most milk by seeing the ones that do a good job in our calf, assuming the calves aren't stealing. But just if you want to build information on the herd, it's a great idea to weigh once a year. Weigh the weighlings between 150 and 250 days. The information will go into ICBF, and automatically there'll be huge information built up on the herd and also on the national database.
Guys, this is a very divisive topic in terms of breeding replacements from the dairy herd. Any feedback, any comments for Rose? Any comments? Anybody like to express their views on this cow-calf team that we have in front of us here? These are all very shy. Are you all using dairy replacements? Hands up here, who wouldn't take a replacement out of the dairy herd? I know, there's a lot of people have to go to confessions. Who wouldn't take a replacement? Who wouldn't have that cow on their farm? No? All happy enough to buy out of the dairy herd?
But one thing, Justin, if we look at that cow, she's a great straight cow.
Yeah.
I mean, good width of the hips, good width of the pins, great legs and feet in her, and a very nice tight udder. And the big thing you want to get a calf is suck beastings.
Yeah.
And a calf will always rise his head up and he'll actually suck the cow. Now, the thing is, you have good replacements out of dairy herds and you have bad replacement out of dairy herds. And just don't think because you get a replacement out of a dairy herd, you're going to have a 4-star heifer or a 4-star cow. Because some cows are very good in fertility, more cows are very poor, even in the dairy herd. All the dairy herds will have milk. But there's one thing about this cow, and you just use this as an example, right?
Doreen, could I just stop you there 2 seconds? Because, ladies and gentlemen, as we talked about before, we are going live to Trim, to the Knightsbrook Hotel. Nuala, both Darren and I are very sorry we can't be with you here tonight to congratulate you on your award. As you can see, we're down here with over 400 farmers talking beef breeding. I suppose, Nuala, I can't think of anybody more deserved for a Lifetime Achievement Award as yourself. You've been a real positive change for beef breeding and specifically breeding within the Charlie herd. We're delighted and once again want to congratulate you. And I know the Mart manager down here, Martin Walsh, would also like to say a few words of appreciation. Martin.
Thank you, Justin, but I think he's a bit further north. Nuala, on behalf of myself and Claire Mart, I would like to sincerely congratulate you on this unique achievement. As I say, it is very seldom that these are given out, and I think it's a great credit to you. And the one thing I will say is that you've been always very anxious that the farmer gets what he wants and what's paying for him. And I think that has been key to your success. And thankfully, as I say, the society you represent have been very fortunate in the progeny that has been produced and the demand for that progeny. And congratulations.
Martin, my apologies, Martin McNamara. Apologies, Martin Walsh as well. Nuala, look, we're going to get back to business. Would just really like to congratulate you again. And I know the 400 plus farmers here tonight would like to show you their appreciation for all you've done for beef breeding. And if somebody could take out the Charlie and bring back in the Angus now, that would be great. Nuala, thank you. Okay, Rose, go ahead, Doreen. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for that. I'm sure Nuala will really appreciate it.
Okay, the one thing we do, if we look at this cow here now, right, and you can possibly see that there, this cow here now has a replacement index of 90. She's only 13% reliable, which is really, really low. However, she's a 4-star cow. Now, how did she get to be a 4-star cow? Her calving difficulty is 4%. Her carcass weight is just 2 stars, right? So her ability to produce very high carcass weight, is 2 stars. Carcass conformation is 2 stars, right? Daughter milk is where she's getting her 5-star. So she's getting most of her replacement value, in the daughter milk. And daughter calving interval, she's 1 star. Can you see that? Right, so she's 1 star at the calving interval, right? She's 5-star for the milk, right? 2-star for the carcass weight and 2-star for the conformation. Why is she so low on the calving interval? She had 1 calf here in October 2013. She's her 2nd calf in September 15. Now, the other thing about this cow, right? Even though she's 4-star, she's down at 13% reliability. Why is she so low in reliability? Because there's no sire in for her, right? There's no maternal grandsire in for her. All that's in for her is the number of the dam. As you can see there. Now, I learned a lot of lesson about 10 years ago. I have a daughter, and out of, suppose, a kicky mare comes a kicky foal, right? But she's a big interest in cattle, right? And she was out in the yard one day with a fella trying to explain to him about a pedigree of a limousine bull, that this bull was going to be difficult calving. And your man was looking at the sheet, and the bull was down at 4%. She straightened the shoulders and says, I know more about this bull than ICBF does. Right? No. So this is what we have to do. An awful lot of you out there know an awful lot more about your cows than ICBF do. But if you want accurate stars in the cows, you have to start telling ICBF. Right? How do you start telling ICBF that? Try and get a weaning weight across the board. If once a year you just got in the fella to weigh the calves when they're under the cows, it's great information for yourself, because you'll know the bulls is doing the good job, you'll know the cows. Try and get in as many sires as you can. Because the more information you get in, the better. The other thing is, be honest with your information. When they ask you to grade cows in temperament, be honest. Grade cows in milkability, be honest. Right? If you grade them all good, they ignore it. If you grade them all bad, they ignore it. And you're only messing about with what you have. Because at the end of the day, what you want is your good cows to have good indexes.
Doreen, before we go on to this cow now, and that cow that went out, what bull would you recommend putting back onto that cow now, guys, if you were picking one of your bulls from the catalogue rows, and why? AI really allows you to match the individual cow to the bull, not like a stock bull. So what type of bull would you have put on that black cow?
The cow gone out of you, huge choice, okay?
Yeah.
If you've enough replacements already, and you decide, okay, I want to put a terminal bull on her, you've a huge choice. You could put, she's in her 3rd calf now, you can put a Belgian blue bull like Serpentine on her. This particular farmer sells weanlings, okay, so he likes really good quality weanlings to sell. So Serpentine would be a great choice there if you wanted to go blue. If you wanted to go Charlie, he could go LGL. She's a 3rd calver, so you don't have to use the extremely easy ones. You can go step up with every calf. So Charlie LGL. And she's also a great option to breed a replacement from if you needed a replacement.
What breed would you put on the likes of her now for as a replacement?
We're still on the black.
On the black cow, yeah, sorry.
I've no problem going back with the same breed on her because she's a Limousin cross Holstein. So if she was purer, I might prefer to change breed. So I'd have no problem going back with another Limousin on her. But the big thing, if you're going replacement, she's out of the dairy cow, she has milk. Make sure you go back with milk again, because the one thing with milk in the suckler herd, we have to keep it in every single generation. Yeah. So I'd use a bull like on D on her.
Just a question was, she's coming up there as a 4-star across the breed, and yet she has no stars within her own breed. Can she be used for a farmer to breed replacements and get her be a 4 or 5-star animal, or will she do with what she has?
She can. So what we were talking about earlier on is it's much easier if we think about numbers than think about stars, okay? So 74 was the magic number. If you want to be 4-star, 74 is where you need to be, okay? So she's 90. So she's a nice bit above 74. So using any bull on her above roughly above 90 or go higher if you want, you have a very good chance of achieving 4 or 5 stars. But you may as well go with the highest bull you have available to you anyway. Do you know what I mean? Just because she's a good index doesn't mean you can use a low index bull on her. So I just go with the highest index bull I had, depending on the breed I wanted to go.
Okay, this cow here then, Rose, what have we in front of us?
Sorry. This cow here is also belonging to Cyril Barry Fountain in Ennis. She's actually a pedigree Simmental cow, but she's run commercially. 2008 cow. She's had 5 calves. She's had her first calf when she was 3 years of age. She's had 5 calves. She's had a good calving interval. We can see her calving interval here. Okay, so she's pretty much within the year every year. So very, very good calving interval, which is exactly what we want. Okay. Good weight in her calves. There's an animal slaughtered here, but I presume that's a mistake with a carcass weight of 66. So we'll just ignore that. Okay. So good breeding cow, good quality, good weight gain, good calving interval, and she's a replacement index of 67. Okay. So she's a 3-star cow, but she's not too far from a 4-star. 4-star 74. So some 3-star cows are not too far off the mark. Okay. So at the moment, as she stands, she doesn't qualify for the scheme. She's a lovely heifer calf under her out of our polled bull, Auroch Duter. Okay, and he has a good index, so that daughter will have a higher index than her.
So Rose, what is the index then of the heifer now? Where will that heifer? Where will that heifer finish up in its star ratings?
I actually don't have it. I need to check the index of the bull. Just give me a...
Oh, sorry, no problem. Guys, Doreen, when Rose is checking that, again, what you know you're breeding, what would you put on that cow in the second time around? Would you keep using it for replacements, or would you go for beef?
It totally depends. If she's a quiet cow, she's a cow that's easy to handle. She looks to have reasonable good legs and feet. Do you know what I mean? And if he's happy with her in the herd, do you know what I mean? He could breed replacements from her, right? Equally, do you know what I mean? The blues don't cross as well on cemental cows as they do in limousines. So what you could go on her if you wanted to go terminal, you throw a good Charlie bull in her.
Good Charlie bull. No. Martin, a Charlie calf out of that cow, how would it sell?
Well, she'll protect the trade all along. A good Charlie calf for a cow like her, bring the right colour and everything. They were making, I said that the 300 to 350 kilo calf was making €3 kilo, and maybe in cases topping it out.
And I think that's a key point what you're talking about, and it's one thing I always like about the Simmental. You'll always have a calf to sell in terms of the weight, and I think for too much we focus on confirmation and the price per kilo. But what Martin said there, €3 a kilo times 350. There's no point in getting €3 a kilo times 200 or 250. It's that extra 100 kilos of output that you get per the cow is what will determine your profit. And the output from, and there's no coincidence that that's why a lot of people down here are using Charlie's, that you get, it's about weight and quality. And it's not necessarily all about having the best weight or the best quality. It's a combination of both that will deliver you the most money. Rose, have you got your figures there? Or
Yeah. So this cow has a replacement index of 67, right? So she's just off the mark for a 4-star cow. The farmer put AI Simmental bull on her with an index of 88. So 67 and 88 is 155. So divided by 2, so the calf, as it stands, we've no performance data on the calf, so we just have a parent average. So that comes in at about 77, 78. Is that right?
Yeah.
So we've the cow doesn't qualify, but her daughter will.
The calf will qualify. So you can breed up from your existing herd. Chris, have you anything? Yeah.
Yeah, just an important point in terms of eligibility. Like, nothing is going to be deemed eligible until it's genotyped. So that cow, when she's genotyped and we have a genomic index, she could increase to 70, 80, 90, 100 yours and then be deemed eligible. And likewise with her heifer calf. Now, by the same token, she could also drop and remain, I suppose, under the cut-off to be eligible. So if farmers have cows like those that are a couple of years off the mark, like, don't despair. When their genomic indexes become available, they may then become eligible.
Chris, when will the results of these genomic indexes be available to farmers? So
we're hoping to have them published in the April evaluation next year.
And the April evaluation.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Just on that cow just gone out there, right? What's the difference between her and the Holstein cow? Right? The first thing is the Holstein cow had a replacement in 90, but she'd only reliability 13 because she'd no sires in. If you look at this cow, she's a reliability 35, just because she's a lot of sires. Now, the second thing about it is she had a calf in September 11, September 12, September 13, August 14, August 15. So she's a super calving interval. But up here, for the calving interval, she's only a 2-star. So that must be coming from her pedigree. Do you know what I mean? So her sire or the maternal grandsire must have very poor genetics for the calving interval, right? So when she's genotyped, you would expect that she would jump. Do you know what I mean? Because she must have got the, do you know what I mean, the good quality genetics for the calving interval. Because she's 4-star in docility, 4-star in carcass weight, 3-star in carcass conformation, and 5-star in the milk.
Yeah. Question on that then, Doran, which that cow has produced a calf every 12 months gone out. Yet, as you say, she's only 2-star because of her pedigree background, and there's a lot of the animals being rated on their past history. And a lot of farmers are making decisions based on what they have got from ICBF now. How long is it before they will have definite information after the genotyping and to see exactly where they're at? Because what you're saying in my book is that what you have today could be totally turned upside down in a few months' time. And you're at the same time asking farmers to start their planning now, even they don't know what base they're working off of.
In fairness, that's maybe one for you, Chris, rather, in fairness than Doreen. Doreen, feel free to comment if you want, but in terms of, I think this is a key question, and certainly a key question we're getting in the Farmers' Journal, in that when will the genomic data be available? Because farmers are looking to go and buy heifers at the minute, they're buying them on stars. The stars may not actually be what they will be by the time it comes to be eligible for the scheme. And like, a farmer has invested a lot of money in cases in these animals. Like, you're saying it'll be next spring, really, before the genomic tests results are available?
Yeah, correct. No, look, I'm going to get a few raised eyebrows here, and I'll mention this next term, but you have to take into account here the heritability of traits, okay? And basically what that means is environment has a much bigger impact on certain traits than others. If you take fertility, and the last cow, her own fertility performance and she had 4 calving intervals, is quite good. But a lot of that could be down to environment. As Doreen said, very good body condition, good heat detection, a good AI technician, a very fertile bull. To get the genetic effect on fertility, you need to have huge numbers. So that cow, to get to a high reliability on her own fertility figure, would have to have a couple of hundred calves. Because you need that level of numbers to say, okay, it's definitely down to her genetics and not her environment. Yeah. And that's why you only see AI bulls with high reliability figures on their fertility figure, because they could have 1,500, 2,000 daughters that are all performing better on fertility than their herd.
And genomics, what will genomics do to that scenario? What genomics will do is, it'll be the equivalent of that cow having 10 to 15 calving intervals herself. So you'll have a much better idea before ever breeding a young heifer calf as to what her fertility performance will be. So what will be the baseline reliability? Will we see the baseline reliability increasing to 2025 when we have genomic testing, or 30%?
It depends on where you're starting from. It's like cycling a bike up a mountain. The start of the mountain is very gradual, so it's easy to get to a certain level. So a cow that's maybe starting at a reliability of 5-10%, it'll be quite easy for her to jump to maybe 30-40%. The cow that's at maybe 30-40% reliability, she may only jump to 45 or 50, because as you go up higher, the climb gets steeper, it's harder to get higher in reliability.
Martin?
Just to follow that on then, Chris, there's a lot of farmers out there at the moment and they're thinking of buying 4- and 5-star heifers, and they're buying in the dark, right? Because with the genotype and everything, that's the only thing that's going to carry weight. What's your advice? Should they wait till next year if they're in that process of buying heifers and just concentrate on breeding their own replacements for the moment? Because I think we're in a bit of a grey area for a period of time, and there is people making big investments at the moment based on the stars that's available at the moment, and some of these I think will go out the gate very quick by the looks of things.
Yeah, look, it's not an easy one. What I would say, I suppose, is if a farmer wants a safe bet, maybe buying heifers off a proven AI bull or off a stock bull that's, you know, after a couple of seasons and maybe his daughter's calved down himself, it is a safer bet, because it's less likely that those heifer calves indexes will change dramatically once genotyped. Where there is more risk is maybe, you know, a heifer coming from a dairy herd where maybe the sire wasn't recorded on that heifer, or it's off an outcross bull that we know very little information about. There's more room for fluctuation there. I suppose, look, ideally if a farmer could wait, but a lot of them can't until genomics
Chris,
are available.
this is more of a political decision, certainly more than from ICBF. Maybe, Darren, we talked about this actually around the news desk this morning. I know the IFA are putting a lot of pressure on the minister to actually, in this sort of, Martin, as you talked about this grey area, that farmers that do go out there with the best of intention to buy 4- and 5-star heifers, that they would be acceptable under their indexes, but in this interim period before the genomic results are available.
Yeah, I suppose, Justin, one of the things that say the IFA have called for a meeting with the minister. They've had a few meetings with him already, and what they are what Henry Burns is looking for is to get, I suppose, over this sort of temporary anomaly that if the two animals, just say the two animals in the ring, if they're 4- and 5-star, as they stand at the minute, that they would be taken into account and that they would be deemed eligible, that say that regardless of, say, genotyping, because no one knows at this stage, as Chris said there, it's hoped to have next April, but that leaves a tight time frame for farmers to get back up and running and have the required animals for, say, to breed the required animals that they need. So what they're saying is that for at least the foreseeable future, if a 4- and 5-star animal is 4- and 5-star, they should be selected and then look further down the line at genotyping.
Guys, just before we go back to talking about these cows here, maybe in the ring, and there's been a lot of information there just come out about some specifics. Is there any questions? Any questions? Yeah, this man here in the front, and was there somebody over here, Martin, as well? Yeah, man in the front row here, and this man, yeah. We'll take these two questions, then we'll go back to the demo.
If you have a 5-star bull and you're using him, does that mean you might have no heifer at all from that bull?
So if you have a 5-star bull,
you only man 4-star cows even. There's no guarantee you're going to be heifer according to what you're talking now.
Well, the first thing you have to take into account is he 5 stars on the replacement index or the terminal index, because there is some confusion around that. So make sure what you know.
He's 5-star on both lines.
Okay, so he's 5 stars in the replacement index, but again, as Rose would have pointed out already, you have to look at his index figure. If he's 5 stars with an index of €150 and you have a cow that's back at 50, well, the parent average of a potential heifer calf will be at 100, which would make that heifer calf 5 stars, albeit only barely 5 stars. If you mate that bull to a cow that's at, say, €0, you're then coming in at a parent average of back to 75. So it depends on where your cow is and where your bull is. The lower your cow's index is, the higher the bull has to be, and vice versa. The lower your bull is, the higher the cow has to be.
Yeah, but my point is you're breeding from 4-star cows.
I think there's another issue here. The first thing, look at your bull, right? And the question you're asking is, if you have a 5-star bull at the moment for replacement, right?
Yeah.
Right. The first question is he 5-star for replacement to crossbreed? Right, because he mightn't be a 5-star for replacement to crossbreed. right? The second thing is his reliability is only about 30%. So he can go up or go down. And he is a high risk strategy if you're using him solely to breed all your replacements. So you'll be a lot better off across the winter, pick out a couple of your nice cows that you like to breed replacements off of and use a bit of AI in them, do you know what I mean, to get a surer bet of the replacements actually qualifying. Because he could either go up or he could go down. But if he's breeding good terminal, I'd definitely hang on to him and use him. But it's high risk to use a stock bull with a low reliability across the board to breed all your replacements, as he could go up or he could go down. Use 3 or 4 AI bulls, throw them into the mix, and at least if you had 10 heifers and they offer 3 or 4 different bulls, do you know what I mean, you're spreading the risk a bit.
But you're back to using AI again and back to more cost.
Well, we'd be here all night if we go into the cost of AI, but...
I think this gentleman does raise a very valid point. That I presume you're using 100% stock bull. You're maybe working off the farm.
Yes, I am.
You're going to your work at 7 in the morning, back at 7 at night. The AI does add a certain level of complexity to it, and that is a big challenge. And that's why it's not maybe the popular view, which I would say that maybe a lot of guys in your situation are actually better to go out and buy the 2 or 3 replacements that they actually need from high herd health status herds. And I accept the argument that maybe they're not there at the minute, but if I was a farmer sitting around here with good maternal cows, and I was a full-time farmer looking to maximise the profitability of my farm, I'd be thinking he could be a potential customer. This man here then with the...
Why can't you select your own 5-star replacements from your own herd? You have to go and tag what they select. If you have a bull there and he's working okay for you, not a pedigree bull, and you'd like to retain him in your herd, and they won't, he might be okay now. If you ring him up there, the ICBF, and say he has 4 stars in terminal or replacement, but when he's then he's genotyped in next year, and he might have fallen down. So you're forced down the road in of using AI, or in a couple or going buying a 4 or 5-star bull to stay in the scheme, or else hand back the money. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Next year you'll be able to select your own animals for genotyping, but they won't allow you this year.
Yes.
Why?
The main reason we couldn't get farmers to select them this year was the time constraints. The scheme ran late. There's a 6 weeks order time, so from when ICBF orders tags, it's 6 weeks before they're out on farm. So if we were to say to farmers, look, these are the animals we selected, we're going to give you a month to come back to us and change those animals, it would have just led to too many issues. So we put in place criteria. We prioritise your 1st, 2nd and 3rd calving cows with high indexes because they've been bred and they're most likely going to be kept on the herd. We had to I suppose, stay away from the maiden heifers because some of those heifers may not be kept at all.
Chris, if I just cut across you guys, Rose, would you just do what you're going to do in those cows? If strong calves on them, the last thing we want is any magnesium issues. The black one's getting a little bit flighty there, so maybe if we deal with them and let them out. We can come back to that, Chris, and we'll come back to that question.
Where are they gone? Sorry, I'm trying to find them here.
Doreen,
okay, so I'm up and running now.
Go.
Okay, we've 2 cows in the ring, okay, and I suppose they were mainly put here for a bit of discussion. The black cow there, she's a Limousine Cross Holstein. She's a 5-star cow, 117. There's no sire recorded to her, so at the moment she's a 5-star cow, but only 11% reliability, so the reliability is extremely low. And she has a heifer calf at foot, which is the calf closer to the crowd there, out of a Limousine AI bull called TVR, Elite Forever Brill. So that's the black Limousine Cross Holstein. The Simmental type cow here is actually off a Charolais bull, so she's a Charolais daughter from a Limousine Cross cow. She's a 1-star cow, replacement value of 19, reliability of 33%. So both calves are from the same sire, and both calves are roughly the same age. The 5-star cow had her first calf at 3. She's had 3 calves, a good calving interval since. But she's from the dairy herd. The Charolais cow, she's a 1-star cow. She's from a bull with a very, very poor replacement index. A bull we had in AI called VCR, super terminal bull, but not a good replacement bull. And I suppose the thing we have to remember about genetics and producing indexes, we always know a lot more about bulls than we do about cows, especially AI bulls. VCR there, if you look up his data, there's probably thousands and thousands of calves off him. And there's at least hundreds of cows. So there's a lot more known about that bull than this cow. This cow has only had 5 calves, which is very good for a cow, but she'll never have as many calves as a bull. So we always know much more about bulls than we do about cows. And the biggest influencer of index of any cow is her sire. Sometimes we always think it's her own performance. The biggest influencer is her sire. And that's what's hitting this cow here. Her sire has a poor index. And at the moment, in the absence of genotyping, she's a poor index as well, because it's assumed all daughters of that poor index bull are poor on fertility and milk as well. She herself has a good performance in calving interval. Unfortunately, we don't know anything about her milk because there's no information there. There's no weights gone in on her milk. So ICBF have no way of knowing of whether she has milk or not because no weights have gone in. So the best thing they can do is assume that she's like all the other daughters of this bull, or the average daughters of this bull, and the milk is poor.
Okay. Yep, Martin, go ahead.
I suppose, ladies and gentlemen, the reason we picked this pair was the same sire, I think, for the 2 calves. 2 calves near enough equal quality. The Simmental cow is only a 1-star cow, but it proves yet again that by using proper genetics, especially in the sire side, you can produce a top quality animal. She has a top quality calf with her. She has 3 of her progeny have been killed to date, and they've all graded you or better. So our calving interval over the 5 years, I think, is still very good. And I suppose, to the speakers, it is there where there's a small bit of frustration amongst farmers that a cow like this that's producing a calf like that, and the progeny, as I say, hanging up perfect, with great weights and everything, that, people are questioning it. And I appreciate it because of the sire in our ancestry, but maybe there's too much emphasis on past rather than what we have in life.
No, Michael, I agree totally with you. Firstly, if I had that Simmental cow, if I was a suckling farmer, Martin, sorry.
At least I'm not the only one.
If I had that Simmental cow, I wouldn't get rid of her, right? I'd hold
on. Dorian, that's a very important point.
Yes.
Remember, what's the percentages? 40% by
2020
by 20
and 20% by 2018.
By 2018,
and that's females over 16 months.
Yeah, so nobody under the scheme is saying you have to get rid of that cow.
No, so I absolutely keep that cow.
Yeah.
Now, why is she such a low index? The first thing is her sire is low. When she's genotyped, she mightn't be out of that sire at all. 15% of sires are coming back incorrect. So if you don't know a sire, don't guess it, because the genotyping will pick it up. Right? So this cow was given 1 star because she was written down as being out of VCR, but maybe she's not out of VCR. So that's the first thing where she might be low. The second thing is she might have taken most of her genes from her mother as opposed to from the sire. Because if you look at her, she calved here in March 12, March 11, March 12, March 13, April 14, April 15. Right? Do you know what I mean? And she has produced, do you know what I mean, U3 plus, U3 minus, U3 plus. And again, if you look at that TVR calf there, she has the hairy calf over there to the corner. It's a super calf with a super shoulder and a super top. Do you know what I mean? Absolute super end. So she's my cow. I would be keeping her. No question about it. And I'd be very anxious to see what the genotyping would actually come back with. And what I would do as well is I'd weigh my calves at least once a year and get in the figures. And she would improve actually in the figures.
But I think there's a message here, if you had those 2 cows in your herd, that you might breed from the black one for a replacement, and you would keep putting another good Charolais bull onto this cow here for Martin here to sell in the autumn or in the spring as a bloody good weanling.
You could. Or the other thing is to see what ICBF. She never has got a weight figure into ICBF.
Okay.
Right. So ICBF doesn't know that she's actually a good milker. Right. And if that cow, I mean, she looks to have great width of the pins. She's great width of the hips. She looks to have a nice udder, quite tight under her after 5 calves. So I mean, I wouldn't mind keeping a heifer out of her.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I put a limousine in her, and get a nice right heifer with a white flash in the face.
We might let this team out, and Chris, maybe if you want to go back to addressing this man's question here, and we can take any comments or suggestions. But I'm just conscious that black lady is getting a bit stressed.
But I think the other thing, Justin, is we shouldn't just buy heifers because they're 4 and 5 star. If the heifer doesn't look right, and she doesn't look like the article that you want, don't buy her. Right?
Very good point.
You know the type of cattle you like. Do you know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is, we have to like our suckling. We're trying to make it profitable. If she doesn't look a 4 or 5 star, I would not. I didn't like her. I wouldn't buy her. But if I liked her and she was a 4 and 5 star, that's telling me is she has the milk and she has the fertility. I definitely go on her then.
Chris, do you just want to go back to this gentleman's question?
Yeah, so in terms of the animals picked for genotyping, as I said, it was just time pressure this year, and we had to put criteria in place to select those animals. Now, there was the option to change, for example, if while we were ordering those tags, an animal died, or you sold it on, or slaughtered it, or when you got the tags out, it was very difficult to tag the animal was dangerous or difficult to handle. Next year, as I said, what we'll do, we will send you a list based on that same criteria, but we will say to you, you have 6 or 8 weeks to come back and swap out animals you don't want to do and swap in animals you feel you should be able to do. You put emphasis in the stock bull. In all cases, we want to do stock bulls because the stock bull will be the sire of the vast majority, if not all, of the calves in the herd, whereas the females will only have 1 calf per year. So the genetic impact or the potential genetic impact of a bull is much greater than a female. So we prioritised those bulls in all cases to get their genetic details in.
Rose, what have we...
Isn't that, Mart?
Sorry, go ahead.
Isn't that my real question to you? If you have the bull there, and the minister we had at the start, when this thing started, he set up a working group or a forum with it to iron out some of the problems. They didn't iron out very many problems as far as I can see. Because you're not the bull, which you intend keeping for a number of years, if they wouldn't allow you to genotype him, to know is he 4 or 5 star. If you go ahead with this year and draw your money all right, and your bull is genotyped next year then, and he's back to 2 or 3 stars, what you do? Do you go down the road of AI, which might be working for you? Do you hand back the money you got this year, or do you go and pay thousands of pounds for a 5-star bull that you won't be able to go into the field to? You'd be cross.
Just to defend, guys, to bring a bit of balance to that question, and I think it's important. The question I would ask you is, if a bull comes back genomically tested, and remember, this is the profit generator in your farm. If he comes back genomically tested to be 1 or 2 stars, do you, leaving aside the scheme, do you want to breed with him? Would you want to breed with him?
But if you have the milk in the cows, I mean, look at the sales there all the year, which years all the big names in the Charlies are CF52. How many generations will they be breeding off CF52 before they get milk into his genetics?
But CF52 wouldn't have milk for your cornflakes, and that's part of the big problem. But remember, this is the difference between breeding a replacement. Guys, we need to be clear. This is talking about breeding a replacement and breeding a beef-bred animal as well. It's 2 different goals, 2 different objectives. I agree with you in terms of what you're saying, in terms of a lot of the breeds don't have milk. But if a bull comes back, if you're using the bull to breed replacements and he comes back genomically tested on the replacement index to be a 2-star, there's no point in using that bull, leaving aside the scheme.
But why couldn't we test the bull this year and find out whether he's one way or the other?
We did test all pedigree bulls, and if we didn't pick the bull, it's because he was done in the herd that he was bred in.
But if he's not a pedigree bull, what did this working group do?
Well, that's a different issue then, because that non-pedigree bull could be a bull that's being fattened inside in your shed, and we may not know that. But next year you'll be allowed to select that bull, and non-pedigree bulls that had progeny registered to them were selected. but we couldn't pick up non-pedigree bulls in herds because they could be bulls that were just bought to be fattened.
Okay, I'm just keen to move this on, and it is getting late, and I'm sure Chris, if there's further discussion on it, Chris, you'll be quite happy to take it at the end. Rose, what have we in front of us?
Okay, what we have in front of us is a cow with a bit of limousine in her, a bit of Simmental in her, a bit of Holstein in her. There's no sire recorded, so it's hard to know exactly her lineage. She's a 5-star cow with 128, which is a very high index. The reliability is very low, okay? So most of her index is actually coming from her own performance. We don't know anything about her sire. We don't know anything about her maternal grandsire. So she's a cow, if a sire is found for her, the reliability of her index is likely to increase. Very profitable cow. She calved at 2. She's had 10 calves. And she's an outstanding calf out of our AI bull, Feaston FSZ under her. And the calf is there since the 2nd of August. So a super quality calf and a great cow that's left a lot of money. 10 calves, calved at 2. And if you look at the performance of the progeny that have been killed, all ewes, good carcass weight. Okay, so exactly the sort of cow that would be useful in any herd.
And actually, it's very interesting to look at the slaughter age. 20 months, 29, 30, 19, 20, and obviously, that's what we kept, 26 months. 26 months at 456 kilos. Obviously, the guy that bred him, or that bought him for finishing, kept him moving at the same pace as he was. Pardon? Breeder and finisher is the same man. So obviously that man is doing a good job the whole way through, and that's actually a very interesting fact, because a lot of farmers here, maybe Rose was saying that calves that he's maybe just not got the same style as maybe some of the other, but he's as the calf develops, is obviously feeding very well as well, and it's about getting a calf to slaughter, not just to weaning. It's actually getting these guys to come back and buy your stock is important as well. Any comments on this lady, guys? Any comments on the calf? This gentleman here. Hold on, we'll get you a microphone.
Could I say this, and it's no reflection on you people? I think the whole scheme, as it stands at the moment, is very questionable. And I think people go out here tonight confused. You know, because your 2 cows there a while ago, and there was a glaring example of it. It's as fine a Charlotte Simmental cross cow as I have seen. And yet she's only 1 star. And she produced an excellent calf. If I came in here next Tuesday to buy 2 suckler cows, which is the sales day for suckler cows, you think I'd buy the black cow in preference to the other one? No way. So at the end of the day, as I said earlier, and sorry for hogging the meeting,
no, you're fine.
You have to take things by appearance. You know, it's not to be in the end all of all, but appearance is certainly a huge factor. And as I said already, the scheme is very questioned. Now, the other thing I want to say is, I happen to be a pedigree Hereford breeder and a pedigree short-run breeder. I know that most people here tonight, 95% of people here, 90%, would breed either beef farmers would breed either Charolais or Limousin bull. But you made no reference, Rose I think it was, you made no reference to the Hereford. Even though Joe, the first speaker, Joe Burke.
Joe Burke, yeah.
Joe said that there was a huge increase in the use of Hereford bulls. Now we have a man here tonight, I won't name him, who recently got into breeding Herefords. He gave the top one of the top prices down at a clearance sale in Cantork in Cork, and he gave the top price in Tullamore last Saturday week. I was there myself, I bought 2 animals in it. So you made no reference to the Hereford, and they have one thing above all others, and I'm not, maybe I am promoting the Hereford breed.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah, because they're very docile breed.
Right, I'm going to take that as a comment, and Rose, we didn't expect you to name every breed, but...
I take the point.
You take the point. Okay, any other questions, comments, suggestions, criticisms? There's a man, blue jacket here beside the camera. Wave at me, guys, I can't see you. Oh yes, sorry, this gentleman here, go ahead.
I want to go on the same team as this man here.
Yeah.
Most people here, they have their own bulls at home.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have a bull he's only maybe 2 stars. And we're being forced. I have a bull at home now. If you wouldn't give anything to look at him, but he's breeding grand calves.
Yeah.
He's quiet. I'll be forced now to get out of him. I might buy a 5-star bull. He'll cost me a fortune, and he might kill me. That's the other way about it.
But guys, there seems to be a thread going through here that 5-star bulls are wild, and
well, he mightn't be wild, but you'll have him at home. You might have him.
It's a bull you don't know.
It's a bull you don't know, and because an awful lot of pushing.
Sorry, guys, just
AI.
this gentleman.
But I'd say an awful lot of people here, it is all their own bulls. And there's another thing. Where did they get the figures for the 5 stars? And the 4 stars and the 3 stars and down all the stars? Was it what the people full in when they were registering their calves? Where did it start? Where did all these stars?
Look, the indexes come from the information that's recorded in the database and stock. So we're getting information from Marts in terms of weights and prices. When cattle are killed, you can see in the Suckler Core report there, you get the carcass grade, the fat, and the slaughter data. We're getting in weights that are recorded on farms. When you register the calves, we know when each heifer calves for the first time and how many times she subsequently calves and what her calving intervals are. So it's all about accumulating this data, and that's what creates the indexes. How reliable they are depends on how much information is recorded on each animal. And you can see the reliability figures on cows and on bulls. Now, you're not going to get to high reliabilities unless you're looking at older stock bulls or AI bulls that are heavily used. So that's how the indexes are created. It's based on factual data recorded, and it's data being recorded by farmers, and it's data that's coming in from the industry, from factories and marts.
Well, the only problem I have is the people are being forced to get out of a bull they could be very happy with and to go and buy another bull that mightn't be successful at all. That's the only problem I have.
And Chris, when do you have to change this bull by?
By 2019, by the middle of 2019. So that's still just under 4 years away. And the important thing to remember is the average stock bull is only lasting in Irish suckler herds for 2.5 years. So a lot of the stock bulls will be replaced before 2019 anyway. So all it's saying is that when you are going to replace this stock bull, we're just getting it to replace it with a 4 or 5 star bull on either the terminal or replacement index, whichever you want, and it can be within or a crossbreed.
Do you want to come in, Dorian? And then this man, if we can get a microphone to this man here, Dorian, just make a comment.
I think a couple of things. The first thing is, no one is saying the scheme is perfect, you know what I mean, right? But the one thing out of it is there's a few bob in it for suckler farmers. That's the first thing, right? The second thing about it is it will do a job for us if we use it. Because as suckler farmers, there's about 3 things we all agree on. Females have got more difficult calving. Females have got less milk, right? So what we have to do is we have teamed up with females that's going to calve easier, have more milk, and go back and calf quicker. Do you know what I mean? There's no doubt about that.
And be quieter, Dorian, as well.
We all want those kind of females, right? And the only way we can do it is getting information. And the dairy, the beef, is it a big disadvantage? With the dairy, there's 500,000 cows milk recorded every year. And as suckler farmers, we have to start getting more figures together, right? If we start filling up the old farms, make an effort to get them right, and weigh the calves once a year. Because the fact of the matter is, if there's 3 bulls there and they all produce the same quality cattle, but one of the bulls is giving us more milk and more fertility in the females, they're the bulls we need to identify.
Okay, guys, I'm just keen to keep it moving. It's getting late. This man here, yeah.
We tagged 60% of our cows this year, and we might do the same next year and the year afterwards. In year 4, will we face a penalty? Is it going to end up, let's say, if some fella maintains his herd more or less the same as it is today, is he going to face a penalty if he hasn't cows?
But you have new calves born every year. So if you have 20 cows, you're going to have 18, 19, 20 new calves. So by year 3, we'll probably have all the older stock done, and then we'll just be moving to the calves. And it'll be just the calves will be done then for the remaining 3-4 years of the scheme. Where you may run into issues is if you have a 20 cow herd, 60% of that is 12, and let's say you drop to 8, 10 cows, you won't then have enough animals, new animals to genotype every year, in which case you may have to go out and try and buy a couple of ungenotyped animals to make up the 60%.
Dorian?
My understanding is you have to keep the land, but you could go down to 1 suckler cow and still get
But
paid.
you still have to have 60% of the animals to genotype every year.
If I haven't got them.
Yeah, you can buy them in. You can buy them in.
You can buy them in, but
Yeah.
you don't have to keep the same number genotyped every year for once you keep the same amount of land. Is that right?
Guys, Darren will have the definitive answer either in the web or in next week's paper. Sorry, Darren, go ahead.
The scheme terms and conditions say 60% have to be genotyped every year, but there's nothing in it to say that you have to keep the same amount of cows. You could do like if these were 4 and 5 star heifers, and if you were, say that man that had 20 cows had to go down to 8 cows, you could buy 4 or 5 star heifers here that would be new animals coming through as weanlings that wouldn't be genotyped, and they would suffice as coming through from it.
Okay, sorry, Martin, go ahead.
Martin, I might be wrong, but is the question you're asking is if you don't meet the target by 2018 or 2020, do you lose or do you get penalised for the money you have drawn? Is that the question? Yeah, I was thinking that.
You won't get penalised your full money. From my understanding, what I've been told from the department is the 7 aspects of the scheme. If you don't meet just say one aspect, it'll be a percentage of the money that you lose and a percentage of money that you'll have to get back. Unless you did nothing at all and didn't adhere to any part, took no genotype samples, didn't say meet the bull requirements, heifer requirements, that's the only way you could lose all the full payment. It'll be a percentage payment going on whether you meet different classifications of it.
And guys, that's actually a condition to a lot of the schemes out there, not just the BDGP. Right, I'm going to ask for a show of hands of these 3 ladies in the ring, and I'm going to ask the panel here to put up their hand as well to see what they're made of. Right, if those 3 heifers were in the ring and I was telling you to pick one to bull, this little blood red one here on the middle, hands up who would select her for breeding. Now come on, I'm asking you all to, Darren, Joe, Martin, Rose, Doreen, Chris. Stop looking, Chris, you're not allowed to look at the figures now. Who would select this heifer for breeding? Come on, hands right up guys, hands right up. Okay, maybe 5% of the audience. The one in the middle, the smaller type limousine heifer. Oh, okay. Are you all getting out of sucklers? And what about the lady up against the rails? Joe's saying either of the other 2. So I think the lady with the white face wins. Rose, how does that tally with your figures? This is a very rough poll now, so it is. These lads don't need the ICBF at all, Chris.
Yeah, the heifer that got most votes is the one out by the rail. She's a daughter of an AI bull, a Shield, and thankfully she's 4 stars.
Yeah. I like the one in the middle. And Martin did tell me there that but my view is these 2 heifers actually are beef heifers. And guys, it's all about pulling when you go to the back end to pull, and you've heard me say in this ring before about the Dublin bus. These 2 ladies for me are a little bit well-rounded in the hindquarter for breeding from.
You could certainly argue that with the dark one.
Yeah.
She's very well shaped. She's a very good hindquarter, and you could argue she's that bit too good.
She's a fantastic beef heifer.
It would affect her calving ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rose. Go ahead then with your.
No, before we move on to this heifers. Our last cows were belonging to Pat Liddy from Quinn, County Clare. So just thanks to Pat for bringing those in. These 3 heifers here are belonging to an AI customer of ours, Michael Ford and Fountain. They're 3 AI bred heifers out of 3 different limousine bulls. The one that got most votes is out of a limousine bull called a Shield. The really, really dark, beefy one is out of a bull we have available at the moment, suitable for maiden heifers, Linen Frosty. And I suppose it's also important to say easy calving doesn't always mean poor quality. In AI, we do aim for bulls that are small at birth and really develop well later. And Linen Frosty is one of those bulls. And the one in the middle is out of the easy calving bull with a good index, Autoclair. So 3 nice heifers. They're all quiet. And I suppose one thing to say about heifers is if you haven't used AI before and you want to start using a bit, heifers are a great place to start. They're a group that are together. You don't have to worry about calves at foot. They're an easy group to synchronise. They're a cheap group to synchronise. And if you synchronise them and AI them, you can have them all calving before your cows, a couple of weeks before the cows. And also, even if you have a bull in the yard, with the AI bulls, you've extreme easy calving bulls available there. So they're a handy group to AI if you haven't used AI before and you want to start.
Okay. The middle heifer is very good in stars.
Yeah, the middle heifer is out of a very high index bull. We have a bull called Autoclair. He's also an easy calving bull. And that's her there. She's a 4-star heifer. She's an index of 82.
Now she's 6 months younger than the other heifer, is she? The other heifer's in August 14 and she's a January 15.
She's January 15.
So she's holding her own well.
November 14, August 14. They're 3 good quality heifers, but they're 3 different heifers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, any comments on the heifers? Any comments on calving at 24 months? Any general comments? That's the end of our live demo now, guys, isn't it? So, guys, we're going to wrap up unless there's any questions. Anyone, any last questions? The man here at the rails? Yeah, I got you. I'm going to take this man first because you've already been in and I think it's only fair.
I want a comment to make about it, but the comment I have to make is you based the scheme on 2014. There'll be farmers here, I'm sure, they might have 30, 40 cows. There'll be some of them calving in 13. They have to make up their sums now, is it worth bothering with the scheme because they're not able to qualify. That's all my comment. Thank you.
Darren, do you want to, is that, there is, I'm not sure of that.
Yeah, I'm not fully sure, but if you had, just say if you're a young farmer coming in, or if you got into sucklers, just say in 2013 and you had 5 cows and were building up and you now have 25 cows, the department will look on each case and they have received about 1,500, applications in for a change in the reference area, and they have processed most of them applications. Once there is, genuine reason there, for if you increase cow numbers after, or just say for example the weather was exceptionally bad in 2013 in some areas and some people had less calving cows, if you showed that you had more calves on average in previous years, they would up that and they would take that into account. So if you have maybe a situation, I can chat to you after, or could just contact the department because they will review your case.
We'll take this question from this man.
Just very, very quickly, it's something that I think Martin has touched on it numerous times during the night, and I think it's a point that I would like Chris or somebody to address before we leave. 2 things. I touched on it at the start of the night. We're on about terminal, we're on about stars, we're on about thing. Weight gain in your animals, and Doreen touched on her presentation numerous times. The farmers at Clare that are selling weanlings, it's if they're 350 or 380 kilos at €3 a kilo is the bottom line. The replacement index heifers, you're talking there from what I have picked up tonight, can be got off of people that are breeding, taking them with Herefords off of Frisian cows or dairy herds or limousines off of dairy herds. But I think it's extremely important that some of the farmers here tonight I would ask you to address before we leave that the most important thing that we need to remember, and I asked it earlier, is the weight gain of your weanlings and your calves at birth. And the point I make, I'm aware that every animal that goes through this mart individually is weighed and recorded in the ICBF system. If ICBF also behind a system to support the farmers to weigh their animals at 150 days and weigh them again at sale point through the mart, let those cows be rated on that weight gain, on that period of time, whether it is 3 months or 6 months after they're weighed or at 18 months, and give credit to the parents of that calf, of that animal. And I think that's a very important point that you're missing.
Okay, and I think the throwback I would say to you is what drives weight? Milk, fertility, and cows calving tight. They're 3 things that drive weight along with genetics. And I think that's part of what the scheme is designed to do. And I am going to take that as a comment. Guys, I'll take 1 or 2 last questions. I know people are keen to get back on the road. Martin, go ahead.
Just a quick comment. I'd like to say a very special thank you to the 3 gentlemen that allowed their stock to be brought in here tonight. I think it takes great commitment to do that, and I'd sincerely like to thank Cyril, Pat and Michael for that. Also, I suppose anyone that has any specific questions.
Martin, I have one here.
Just one before I go. There's another meeting by the Department of Agriculture, I think it is on Tuesday night, the 3rd, in the West County. And if there's specific questions and things, and there may be an opportunity to meet on a one-on-one situation, you know, it might be a follow-up to this. Hopefully you learn a lot, but as I say, there may be more to be able.
This gentleman here at the front,
Do we need to put down the bull anymore on the forums? Since you've all the bulls genotyped, you should be able to pick them out.
Yeah, but we still need the sires and the calves, because not all the calves will be genotyped. Definitely not all of the bull calves will be genotyped.
But even if you're using your own stock bulls, can you...
But we still need the farmer to put down the sire, because you could potentially AI 5 out of 20 cows, and we don't, you know, ICBF doesn't know that.
We're not in that situation where we've a couple of stock bulls, like.
But I know we still need you still have to tell ICBF what the sire of the calf is.
Well, what's the point in genotyping the bulls then? You tell us, you can tell
But
the
you only
difference.
have the bull genotype to match it to the calf. The calf has to be genotyped as well.
But sure, won't they be genotyped next year?
Not all of them. We'll still be genotyping cows next year. We may genotype some calves, but a lot of your bull calves will never be genotyped. And we still need to know the sires of those.
But, okay, give it 2 years' time, so we should have everything done.
You'll still only have 60%. So if you have 20 cows, you'll have 10 bull calves, 10 heifer calves. We'll do the 10 heifers and maybe 2 bulls. You still have 8 bulls that won't be genotyped.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap it up now because people are wanting to get home. Look, I think I concur with Martin. Really thank the farmers for bringing in the stock. I'd like to thank Chris Daly from ICBF. Let's hope all Cork men that come to Clare get on as well. Rose Golding, Doreen Carden, Joe Burke, and my own colleague Darren Carty. I'd like to thank all those that we've had over 300 people watching online tonight as well. This event was a brainchild of Martin McNamara here, and I think it just shows the passion that Clare Marts do have for informing farmers. I've had many great meetings here in Clare Marts. Hope you find this one useful. Martin, it's a credit to you in terms of the crowd that you've brought out here tonight and what you've put on. And ladies and gentlemen, safe home, and certainly a big round of applause to Martin and all the speakers.
I think it was positive enough. It was great, yeah. It was balanced.